Sure. We're at, well, it was 1.2. It was 1.2 million, and in two of our meetings, we said we would flex it around to make it fit whatever we
We
had.
have so much for each category.
Yeah.
Everybody ready? Yeah. Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's to start off first with this meeting. We have started out some time ago, before I was on here in January. We were given money from the federal government, American Recovery Plan funds, and the council and the commissioners decided to assemble a group of individuals to advise them as to what would be appropriate use of these funds. During this period of time, we have looked at a lot of different cities, a lot of different opportunities, and a lot of different things as the rules continue to change as we go through the process. The final ruling was put into effect April 1st, 2022. That is what we are working under as of this evening, and that is what we'll use as a guideline in order to determine funding. We set this up in a fashion so that we allowed groups, different individuals, to apply for funding, and then a rubric was established where each member voted independently under the rubric principle to determine an end score. What this does, it takes away the influence that someone sitting next to someone who may have a differing view, and then they don't actually say it, and so it kind of makes us all by ourselves, and then we assemble them together. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of these applications and determine whether they're eligible or not. Underneath the guidelines we currently are working with, there are restrictions. It is COVID-19 related. Some of the people, depending on the entity, are under restrictions due to certain dates and when the loss has actually occurred. Others are not. You may find that in some groups we bring up some issues that other groups, they don't. The reason we do this is because it's not a requirement. They're all separate, they're all independent, some for nonprofit, some for mental health, some for for-profit business. So that's why you'll see something that may seem a little peculiar, like we're trying to do something different for one group that we don't do for another one. If you are not deemed eligible, by all means, it's not a reflection on your project, on your use, what your intent was. A lot of great ideas. Anything we do in this community to make the community stronger is a benefit. But we are underneath these restrictions of what we can and cannot do. If we issue money to an entity in error, the county may suffer the consequences of a clawback, and the person we gave it to likewise. We do have federal regulations. They have to be followed. So with that said, we are an advisory board. The ultimate decision will be made by the commissioners and the council. We believe they will follow what our recommendations are, but they're not obligated to. So with that, we'll move forward. First thing we've got is adoption of the agenda, and I think we need to do some modifications. My thoughts, first of all, is we're going to go through eligibility. Then we're going to discuss those individuals or groups that are still eligible, and then make a decision on funding. We have limited funds, whether we're going to run out of money or not, or how we fund them. And then the last one will be determination whether we want to convert the remainder of the funds into 100% government loss and the consequences of doing that. Any other additions, changes?
I have a suggestion, if we at least have a discussion on whether or not this is going to be subrecipient monitoring and reporting due to CFR.
I think that falls under number 3 though, because in reality, we may take the whole lump sum and put it under lost revenue and then grant it out from there. We're still looking whether that's possible or not, and if it is, then the subrecipient stuff starts to fade a little bit.
CFR, because I reached out to NACO about that question, I haven't heard back.
Yeah.
So I just in case.
Yeah, before we do anything, we definitely have to have a contract made and everything else, and that's not been done, right?
Yes, yes.
So, absolutely.
Okay, that's all I have.
I totally agree with that statement. Totally agree with it. Regardless.
So that said, we'll start.
We're done.
Yeah, not hardly. We've just begun.
Ask if anybody else.
I motion, Charlie.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we start with eligibility. In order to, we have numbered the applicants so that we do not use their names, just to respect to the organization. So we'll refer to them by a number. And the first one is number 1.
I apologize. My spreadsheet, when I built it, I kind of grabbed, there's 2 different people that gave me spreadsheets. One was Sherry with the numbers, which, thank you for doing that. And then one was Emily, and they didn't put them in the same order. So since Emily had more data than Sherry, she won out, and the order is the way Emily gave them to me. So the first,
That's gonna mess me up.
the first one is number 23.
It's on the big sheets in front of you on the other side.
Do you have number 23?
We can go there.
Are they numbered the same way that I numbered in the sheet that Randy
That is
sent me
correct.
out?
We
That's
just
all
need
I
to
need.
cross-reference
That is
with
correct.
this one.
Same as that key, yes.
Do you
Okay.
have totals?
Okay.
Like the total
Just go
amount,
1 through whatever.
like all added up?
Do what?
I think you just go number
Yes.
1 through whatever to determine eligibility.
They're at the bottom, but let's go through
Instead of
eligibility
flipping
first.
back and forth between what, just tell them we're doing it.
Greg, can we, is it possible, because we have these in order and I'm a simpleton, go from 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yes, but somebody keep very close eye on me when it comes to the spreadsheet then, if we're gonna do it that way. Because the spreadsheet is the master, not what's in front of you. So make sure I got it up here right when we do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Make
Let's-
sure you got the right one.
That is correct. So if we're going with number 1, I should have it selected right now, so go ahead.
Okay, the first one, question is eligibility-wise, does anyone have comments, issues, or?
I do. With number 1, funds were not lost. Part of the requirement as a grant is that revenue was lost from 2020 to 2021. And from the data submitted, I cannot determine that funds were lost. And so therefore, I would say it would be not eligible.
My notes that I have here state that the group received increases in income every year beginning in 20. And they acknowledged they were having an inability to spend. We fund them additionally when they're already struggling to disperse their funds, as they acknowledged that it would be,
Not
Yeah.
vote on them since if
I'm not doing eligibility either because who's to say that I don't make someone eligible so that the pot's bigger, so I'm out.
Yeah, I concur with Sherry maybe as well, because I saw that there was not enough sufficient tax information to justify lost revenue.
so we have a motion, do we have a second?
What was?
Sherry made the motion to deny eligibility, this is an ineligible application.
I'll second her motion.
Charlie seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So it carries unanimous. Greg abstained on that one. Number 2. Okay. This one is also a nonprofit. Any comments on this one?
And all we're talking about is eligible or not
Right.
eligible,
Yes.
not
At
whether
this
we're
time.
funded.
Not funding,
Okay.
just whether they're eligible to be considered in the next step.
I thought they were eligible.
I agree.
They did have a revenue loss. They did receive money, but it was not a COVID-related grant.
I came to the same conclusion that they were unable to host some fundraising events, which did impact their revenue.
But wasn't it based just off of like this? This is one of them, right? Like the official one.
And we're talking about number 2.
Number 2, yes.
So we make a motion that the balance pay just not a, I don't think we
Do what?
need the motion now.
We're gonna go
For
ahead.
me, I saw they did have documentation that showed loss of revenue. The significant impact was for 2021. I thought they supplied sufficient budget. It was an okay budget.
Yeah, and I think COVID, it has to be COVID related.
I just thought the finances were confusing because the income and expenses were mixed and
I
not.
can't hear you, Erin.
I was just a little bit confused on the budget or the financial information because it was hard to tell what was income and what was expense.
Yeah.
So you could make sure there was a loss, but I guess you go down line item by line item, you can tell.
So do we have a motion to approve or disapprove?
Well, we're not approving
Eligibility?
funding,
No.
we're just.
No, I'm just talking about eligibility.
Eligibility.
I'd like to make a motion that number 2 is eligible.
I'll second that.
Sherry made a motion and Tom seconded. All those in favor?
You should
Aye.
say is
Aye.
eligible.
Aye.
Is.
Is, okay, aye.
Okay.
So is it unanimous? Greg, and you abstained again?
Yeah.
Always.
Okay.
The whole page.
The whole page.
All right, so that one, number 2
Same
is
the
eligible for
application,
funding.
Same for this.
Take it
Number
back.
3,
Mhm.
We're on.
Yeah, we're on number 3. Yeah.
on number 3.
Mhm.
I'm looking at that one.
Keep me honest. Dan.
I'm trying to find one on the paper fast.
My issue with number 3 is that we were unable to compare revenue year to year as only a profit loss was submitted for 2019. 2020 and 2021 profit loss was submitted, but they were both for the month of January only instead of listing the entire year profit loss statement. So that was a slight problem I had.
Likewise, I felt the documentation could not support the loss because it just wasn't provided in that case.
I wish we would have had a full year's profit loss for 2020 and 2021, but it was just January.
They did note that COVID caused a location to close.
They did what now?
They noted that COVID did cause one of their locations to close,
Okay.
and their transportation was impacted.
Anybody have anything else? Because I'm still undecided on this one.
Well, I think of all watching the transportation of elderly in general took a huge hit with the COVID. just the nature of it.
The only thing that you must keep in mind that we need to evenly apply whatever we do to every organization. If sufficient forms, documentation is not, even though we know in our heart they're a good group, they're a needed group, we should follow whatever standards we determine we want to follow, and if the documentation that was not provided to support it, then we're starting to let emotions slip into this decision making, and
Good point.
Well, one of the things we did ask, though, is would they be willing to take less? And that's something to consider. Should they have not supplied sufficient, like something might be missing? Because a lot of these groups had they had a difficult time doing this process because they were not familiar with the process. Emily and I fielded a lot of calls. I can't tell you, probably 30 or more. So I think we should think about that as well.
Other comments?
Both good points.
Yeah, no, it's, I
Some
mean,
of
we have
these
to be
are
fair.
Do we have a motion one way or the other, or somebody want to? Applicant number 3 is one we're on.
I wasn't impressed with a lot of the documentations throughout, so I didn't weigh that really negative because the same reason Tara stated, that this is new to a lot of people. And it's, so,
But I also don't want, the people that worked really hard to get everything into us either
be shorted.
to be shorted.
Here. Could you guys speak up a little louder? I'm sorry, I can't hear down there.
What we get into is our problem here is if the documentation wasn't provided, it becomes a slippery slope for us.
Okay, I make a motion that number 3 be disqualified because they only provided profit loss for 1 month in 2020 and 2021, so proper documentation was not submitted as required by the grant.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Aaron seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed? One
and
opposed.
you know what, the comment on that, second round of funding,
Right.
maybe
Right.
a lesson.
Yeah,
We're
but
learning too.
Yeah, exactly. And we had-
Do,
we had
do
talked
you
about
want me to
second
put
round.
a note in column Q that says documentation so that we at least know why they
Yeah.
were?
Sure,
Can you keep
sure.
track of what-
Anything that
That would be
you
great.
I'll do that.
makes it more transparent as to why we came with it, we did.
Done.
Number 4.
We have somebody in the audience. Raise your arm.
I don't think you get mine open, I'd make a
I
comment.
got some comments on
I think that
Number
this
4.
one was missing.
Yeah.
On number 4.
Yeah, number
yeah.
4.
It was the wrong year of documentation, right?
Yeah.
Well, yes, there was no, obviously it might have been hard for them to provide tax documents, the periods during COVID, that they didn't have any. But also, this group is partially funded by the county, which has been increased each year. So that's something that I took into consideration. And they also had multiple funding sources that helped throughout that time.
I noted that they only submitted tax documents for the year 2017, which we did not request, and they did not submit any profit loss or tax documents for 2019, 20, or 21, which was specifically requested. So therefore, I cannot see any documentation submitted.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one is ineligible. Again, Greg, you might want to put documentation because they just provided 2017.
He's already on that
He's
one.
ahead of the game.
Why do I need to tell you? I should have known it was taken
I
care of.
appreciate it though. I said keep me honest, and I meant that.
Now we're up to number 5. Any comments on number 5?
Yeah, sounds like
Make a motion on number 5.
I do know in this one they supplied sufficient information to show the loss of revenue and the negative impact
I
from
can't hear
COVID.
what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
We can't hear you down here, Tara.
Oh, I said I know they showed proof of loss of revenue as a negative impact from COVID.
So they had documentation to show that? That's what you said?
They,
I can't hear
they
you.
do
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
from 2019 to 2020, but there was no proof of 2021. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but does the grant not require that we can only fund losses for 2021?
I can comment on that one,
Please.
because I mean, it is just reading the final rule. And the final rule, I believe, and correct me, Tara, if I'm wrong, or Tom, but the final rule was 2021 losses. And if we're basing it off of the final rule, then that would be the losses that you're looking at is 2021.
And
Is that, I got another person I'll ask in the audience, sorry. Kelly, is that what your understanding is too for the defense of the ARP?
Yes, the question is the, payment of the loss and
Yeah.
you do your own thing.
As it stands now, though, the way we got it is 2021.
See, right here in the document, because I've got it highlighted, under the SLFRF program, funds must be used for cost incurred on or after March 3rd, 2021. So, that's in the final rule.
Yeah.
my guess
That was
is
my
they
understanding,
probably
too.
did, but there's no documentation.
I mean, if this is how it's gonna be, we've got a lot of people that didn't provide documentation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
And to be fair then, do we,
We treat everyone the same.
yeah.
You gotta treat them all the
Don't
same.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Well, I mean,
whatever
if
your
we do,
change,
will
whatever
that-
your decision is, you gotta treat them the same, that's for sure.
Right, if that does carry through, then is that gonna thin the applicants down to,
Definitely.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of money left over.
yeah,
Especially on the nonprofit.
Well, in general, we're just going,
Yeah.
this is something,
Yeah.
once we get through this process, we determine eligibility, then depending, at the end of the night, we'll have a general idea where we are, and that'll be a discussion for another date and where we go from here.
Yeah.
But until we get through them, that's kind of where we are.
You won't know until you go through the whole
Yeah.
section.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that I came up on this application, is that they didn't have they had 18, 19, and 20, which they showed a loss in revenue down in 2020, but no 21, which is our affected year. And so it would be speculation. Again, a good group, all of them are good groups. I mean, that's a given. But
I think a lot of this too, we really have to read into these narratives. If some of the information if the documentation's not being presented, if they don't have it. Because some folks they haven't filed their taxes yet. So they're not gonna have 2021 taxes on.
But
Right.
They
you
would have
don't
a
have to
profit
have
loss.
taxes, you can
True.
do a profit loss,
Yeah.
and that's easy to do.
Day one of 2021, you have a profit loss,
Sure.
yeah.
if not shortly after to balance.
Any other comments on 5? Do I have a motion? It's not pleasant,
I
folks.
know.
No
I
one
hate
wants
it,
to-
but if we're
no
gonna
one wants-
follow our guidelines,
Exactly.
then
No one
I
wants
make
to
a
do this.
motion that against, that they
Okay.
did not.
They're ineligible. I have a motion, a second.
Well, this one kills me, but I'm going to second it because we have to follow the rules.
Yep.
We have a motion and a second. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Number 6.
For me, they provided sufficient tax information and demonstrated an impact. However, it was only noted in there a 2 to 3% loss versus the request. They did receive some outside awards.
Am I wrong, or were we saying that this round is not for infrastructure? Okay, and this is infrastructure. So I would make a motion that they're not eligible based on the fact that they're asking for infrastructure and this round was not for infrastructure.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Tom abstains from that one. Greg, are you abstaining?
All of them,
No.
Okay.
till we get to mental health,
Which I may need by the time we get.
which I need.
Tom
Yes,
and
which I need.
Greg both abstaining on this one. Number 7.
What was the difference between that and 5? What was the difference between that and 5?
It's a separate group. They have separate funding, separate budgets.
Okay.
I can comment on this one to get it started. What I found was there was no documentation included for 2021. And in the case of revenue, it seems that actually in 2020, their revenue was higher than what it was in 2019, and that was the year of the COVID. And 2021, we're unaware because the documentation wasn't provided.
Well, with that said, to be fair with the others,
Right.
I'll make the motion to.
We have a
make it
motion,
ineligible.
I'll second.
second.
Mhm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I mean, we have
Opposed?
to be consistent and fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Aye.
So that was
Yes.
number 7 was no,
Yes.
and was there any-
Lacking documentation for
Documentation.
2021.
Got it, thank you, sorry. Helping out our friend over there.
Number 8,
We're into 8 now.
we're in the same category as we were earlier.
Correct.
Number 8 is infrastructure, which
Yes.
is not for this round, so I make a motion that not eligible this round.
Second.
I'll second. Go ahead, Tara.
Charlie or Tara, whatever your choice is.
Okay.
Charlie.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
Tara second.
You're okay.
You'll run out of ink,
She
won't you,
heard me,
Pam?
she didn't hear you.
I know. I've got such a low tone over here.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Tom abstains from that one also. And Greg again. Number 9.
I had a question about eligibility based on religious. A question of eligibility based on religious, like function, I guess, of what they're asking to fund for.
For me, they had a questionable budget, however, they were supplied all the other documentation. They did show a loss in 2020, and they did receive PPP. There was no and I noted this on several of mine, there was no cost estimate that was provided as backup documentation for their requesting amount.
Now, you stated they had a loss for 2020. Did it show a loss for 2021?
No, it actually had a substantial gain.
So going back to your rules that you
Well-
created.
Yeah.
A gain of $50,000.
Yeah. And that's in gross revenue, and actual net revenue,
It was 22,000.
over 22,000 in net revenue,
That-
2021.
You gotta follow
I'm
the
not voting,
standards.
but I can remind you of your rules that you have
Right.
set.
That's your job.
It is of some question with the religious requirements that the federal government puts upon us also for use of the funds. But
There's
it-
still, so Aaron and I had that question, and I found it, they are considered a nonprofit, as by definition.
But with the program, but what they are asking for funding for
Is not,
can't strictly be religious, right?
Right.
It would have to be like a program.
It has to be
a
Right.
community.
Something
Correct.
outside of it that does not have a religious nature to it. So in order to get a meal, you couldn't show up to church as a requirement.
I'd make a motion that number 9 is not eligible due to the fact that they showed a gain rather than a loss in 2021.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Number 10. Any comments? Number 10. I've got one note down here. I'll start it. I put a note down here that the loss wasn't COVID related, and the request was for funding for safety improvement in a matching type grant.
What was the second one, Randy? I'm sorry.
The request was for funding of safety improvement in a matching grant is what
Oh,
this one was.
And that's okay then.
yes. I'm just documenting the comment.
Did this one have documentation on the years we asked for, though? I don't have a note here in that respect. I don't.
2019 budget, 2020.
Is it a budget or is it actually, because some put budgets in and not the
It's
actual.
called budget slash profit loss, so it does have a budget and an actual.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fund.
it is funky. But yeah, they did provide a profit loss.
And does it reflect a loss in revenue in
I
2021?
didn't make that note, so I need to.
It's hard.
Yeah, but they don't need to be doing the balance check that on all that stuff. 8,000.
Well, I mean, I'm showing 2019 income around 12,000 and 2020 income at 26,000.
So their
And
income
then-
actually increased in the 2020.
But that doesn't matter, it's
Right.
2021.
2021,
So we can-
27,000.
And what was 2019? Because the 2019, 12,000.
So their
They
increase
do have a
is
loss.
Yeah.
Oh, they have a gain.
increase of
Yes.
15,000. So they actually made more money in
Correct.
2021 than 2019, the base year.
So 2021 gain should be really my note at this point.
2021 gain in excess. What we basically were doing was using 2019 as the base year, 2020 is the affected year, COVID was here, 2021 is the recovery year, and that's where our funding lays in the 2021 year. So when you had 2019 and you made 15,000 more in 2021, it is hard to determine a loss affected by the COVID. So, we're just following the rules, we're not making them.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion number 10 is not eligible this round.
A second?
I'll second.
Second by Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 11.
I'll abstain on that one. It's my relation.
Understand?
Let's see. I've got a note down here that gross revenue for 17, 18, and 19 was provided, but no documentation for 2021.
I think there was no documentation for 2021 because they were closed down completely.
Yes, due to
So
their,
they don't have any income.
correct.
Oh, in 2021 they were, okay.
Correct.
They actually,
We don't have funds.
Right, because they weren't open at all. So
Yeah.
they did actually have a loss of income because they weren't open.
but they disposed of their property
Right.
March 1st
But they
prior to the
disposed-
March.
They disposed of the property because they couldn't pay the bills because of COVID.
So the next question becomes one of sustainability.
Well, they did make a comment on sustainability.
So are you thinking this one?
Is sustainability an eligibility question?
Yeah.
I'm
True,
not saying one
maybe
way or
so.
the other, I'm asking.
Yeah.
No, why they did that. That's 20.
Is it part of the rules or not?
Well, we will go back into the sustainability whenever we look at funding. And that's something that, what we don't want to do is contribute to an organization that basically is only going to survive as long as our funding is provided and they have no plan or method to continue forward.
But
In
I
answer
think-
to your question though, Tom, is sustainability part of the
Right,
final
so
rule?
The eligibility, and that's what we're doing
Yeah.
this.
It could be part of the eligibility if you make it part of it, but as far as the final rule, no.
I think that we should talk about sustainability when we're voting whether to fund or not.
Right.
This is just whether we believe they're eligible.
Yes. That's
So,
what we're determining this.
My question then is if they provided no documentation for 20 and 21,
Because they were closed, they didn't have any income. They had no profit or loss.
So this was filed.
But down the
But,
list, do we
yeah.
have any other organizations that was closed and they couldn't show the same thing?
So then they didn't show.
and they don't provide the
Don't you,
documentation.
even if you close, don't you still have to file taxes?
I don't know.
You would have to, I would suspect you would have to file a business report of some type, that you
Because if you
would,
sell property, there's
In 2021.
income you have to report.
Which the year we're looking for the loss in, so we don't really.
it's a nonprofit, yes, it would have to be a gain.
It's a
I'm
gain, it's a
sure.
capital gain, right? When you sell the
There was a-
property.
And
that was
21 they
20
sold, wasn't
Yes,
it?
March 1st, 2021 is when I looked that up, the title to the property
So there was a
changed.
gain.
So there was 2021. So. Do we have a motion on this one?
I will make the motion that they're eligible, and then we'll decide the award during that session.
I second that, Tom.
Because I think later on, we may find other organizations that have done the same thing, that they were shut down and they not able to show something there, so.
So the motion has been made to make this organization eligible, seconded by Sherry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain on this one.
Okay, so we have, that one's in. One abstention. Number 12.
I don't think it's eligible, right?
I have
I have
the entity received over 2 years. The budget does reflect a loss in revenue, however, the expenses, they were listed out, but they were kind of hard to understand.
Well, I didn't think it was eligible because the use of funds was to continue to pay
Right.
pastor the salary.
So the use of funds was for religious purposes rather than
And that was clear in
community
those.
services.
You need a second?
Oh,
Second.
yep.
Aaron.
Aaron seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I even voted on this one, Pam.
Opposed? So everybody voted on that, Pam. He came out of the
So this
shell.
one is 7-0.
The next one.
Yes.
Doesn't it?
Number 14.
Number 14 is a government entity as well.
I will abstain from this.
Oh, see, that's why I said keep me honest.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, John Jeer.
He's trying to get through these faster, John.
Any other comments? And if not,
I'll make a motion.
Charlie made the motion.
Considered still in a
Pardon?
nonprofit status, even though they're a government
Oh,
entity.
well, I thought.
We've
maybe
handled
they were-
all county entities as write us a letter for round 2 at this point is what that's what we've done for, in terms of commissioners. I know that's what we've kind of said. You know, you tell us the need as a county entity and then we decided, council had to do it. I know
Yeah, but
John's
this
sitting
isn't
out there with the
account-
RDC,
accounting
same thing, he wrote a
entity.
letter.
Yeah, I don't think
This
it's
isn't
really
a county entity, that's why I'm saying it should be.
Oh, you're
Considered-
It's
true.
not, but it's a governmental entity.
Yeah, but a government entity is still recognized as a nonprofit in.
I guess I didn't think they were.
It is
an
government.
entity.
Was the prior one
They
a
still
county
receive
entity?
funding from the
Prior one
county.
As
was.
far as that.
That was the county.
But we
I don't
just
remember that.
excluded one.
That was a county entity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
Oh,
I think it's probably a moot point because their revenue increased in 2021.
Okay,
I'm not going to talk about it because that's.
there we go.
Yeah, it was 19 was $1,035,000 and $1,011,000 in 2020 and $1,117,000 in 2021. So there's not a loss of revenue there. I need a motion.
Oh, I thought we did. I'll make that motion. I'm sorry.
Charlie made the motion, second.
Ineligible.
Ineligible.
I'll second.
Tom seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have to abstain on that one.
One abstention. Greg,
I'm
you're
on that
abstaining.
one. So, with it being there.
2 abstentions then. Greg did also. Number 15.
Number 15, revenue for 2019 was $76,000. Revenue for 2021 was $79,000. And then, I'm not sure how you want to look at that. Well, never mind.
I was typing, Sherry. What was your comment again? I'm sorry. I
Increase in
apologize.
revenue.
Increase in
Increase.
revenue from base year to 2021. Although I'd love to fund this.
Yeah. Their fund balances are actually increased in the year 2020 from 2019. So, and it is a good project. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
question
Yeah,
about it.
great
Excellent
project.
one.
A lot of these that we made ineligible are.
It is. It
They're
is.
eligible for what? Reason the profit?
They're actually, their funds are higher. They don't have a loss.
They don't have a loss. They did for 2020, I showed a loss, but not for
But not
2021. And 2020 would have fallen under the last grant.
Ours shows a loss for 2021.
Do you?
Mhm.
Could have
Yeah.
looked at it wrong then. Okay. I'll pull my-
3273.
Let me look at it.
Right.
I gotta pull that back here.
Yeah, it shows a loss of 20 in 2021.
So that's 2020.
That's 2020. That's 19. That's 2021.
It's the balance sheet. Balance sheet doesn't have the investment loss.
I guess I could like turn it, to turn it.
That-
Is that total deposit? Is that- That's close. They must not have a tax return yet. so
On the
this is
age.
what this is.
Yeah, so they're, I understand.
And then, so, 2019 revenue,
76K.
75, 76, yeah. And then
I just remembered. 2021 revenue, that's 2020. 2020 was 29K.
And then, yeah, it was a lot more.
You're talking about gross revenue or total, or
And it was
profit loss?
78. Well, if we're going to go to profit loss instead of gross revenue, we have to look why it was profit loss. Because somebody could have a greater revenue and just decide to remodel their whole building, and that's the reason they had a loss.
Right.
Mhm.
So 2020, the revenue was 28,000, not 42, not.
So the difference for 2019, you're saying it was 75 and some change, and for 2021 it was 78 and some change.
Yes,
Is that what you're seeing too, Terry?
that's just revenue.
Revenue.
Yeah, revenue is 75,602. And that's 2019. 2020 revenue was 28,942. And then 2021, I see a loss of 3273.
You're talking after the expenses, which the expenses are up, correct?
Right.
They do have,
Um,
they do have a loss, but it's not, they do have an overall loss, but it's not showing a loss due to COVID because their income went up.
And I'm thinking, did their insurance go up substantial? There was something that triggered that. I know I had looked.
The insurance went up substantially, I don't know why. Oh, there's no profit loss. Somebody make a motion.
Right, the insurance was.
But it's still a loss.
Right.
We had some of them in there that I know I looked at had accelerated depreciation. So they bought a large amount of things and wrote it off in 1 year. They in turn showed a loss.
I saw that.
That wouldn't be COVID related. That was a tax advantage
Accounting, yeah.
Right.
situation. They took advantage. Nothing illegal with it. It's fine, but it's that would not qualify as a COVID related loss whenever you do something of that nature.
But in this case, it wasn't, the increase in the expenses didn't have anything to do with depreciation, it had to do with the cost of insurance.
Right. They had expenses that went up. Their revenue didn't go. Their revenue actually went up, but their expenses went up enough to cause them to have a loss. But I don't know that the insurance increase was COVID related. I don't know why that actually insurance went up that high, but and that's
So, I'm showing, in 2019, a loss of like $1,600, then in 2020, a gain of $6,500, and then 2021, a loss of $3,200?
Mm-hmm.
That's if you're looking at profit loss
yeah.
rather than revenue.
But the revenue actually increased, correct?
Correct. Revenue increased by 3K.
So did we exclude some of the others for profit? I mean, for total revenue, or was it based on profit and loss?
I think we would look at both gross revenue and net revenue outside of some of these expenses. If somebody has a huge expense in one given year that's unrelated to COVID that causes them to have a loss, I think that would fall outside of the requirements of the ARP funding. Consensus, am I correct in that thinking? Or
Yes.
And our rubric says difference in gross revenue.
yeah, so
Okay.
any other discussion? These are not fun. Do I have a motion? We could just leave it in limbo.
We can't. We have to have a motion.
We have a parking lot of some.
Yeah, and
So
then we
we
could
can-
ask for an explanation.
Well, I think that in my opinion, we need to stay consistent as we possibly can. Get through this. We're going to have to look at what we've done, how we've done it. It's not perfect, I can tell you that. But then revisit these issues.
We know.
I make a motion that they're not eligible because they had revenue increase of $3,000 in 2021 over 2019, which is the base year.
Second?
Second.
Second by Aaron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then,
Nay. Tom, are you still on that?
You got to vote, Randy.
no.
Yeah.
So it's
4-2-1.
4-2.
4? Yeah, 2-1.
4-2-1.
Yeah.
Were they ineligible?
Ineligible. 16. Comments?
I'm gonna abstain.
Oh, yeah, got all you want.
Mm-hmm.
Their revenue did decrease. 2019 revenue was 82K, and 2021 revenue was 61K. They were, well, that's not where we are, I'm sorry. That's when we decide whether to fund or not.
They had net loss and a reduction of revenue both,
And
correct?
net income, I mean, 2020.
Based upon 2019 versus 2021.
Yeah, I mean, 2020 was significant.
I'd make a motion that number 16 is eligible.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One up. Greg, you abstained also, right?
Yes. Both
Two
of us,
abstentions.
Aaron and me.
Aaron and Greg. Number 17.
Number 17 showed a loss in revenue for 2021 compared to 2019 of $4,000.
Also, they did submit all of the documentation. They provided a list for the requested equipment, but there is no cost estimate attached.
Wasn't that a project estimate?
I think the main thing is, are they eligible?
I make a
Yeah,
motion
right
that
now.
number 17 is eligible.
Second?
No, second.
Tom seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. 17's eligible. 18.
Unfortunately, there was no documentation provided for 2021 with this organization. So there was no evidence of any lost revenue provided.
Any other comments? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to make it ineligible.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded?
And,
Sherry.
oh, sure.
Aaron made the motion.
Oh.
And again,
Voices.
documentation, Greg.
I got it.
Okay. 19.
Number 19, provided no documentation of funds lost and also provided no budget.
With that said, I'll make the motion then.
Tom made the motion.
I'll second.
Ineligible, yes, due to lack of documentation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 20. Comments?
Revenue doubled from 2019 to 2020, and no documentation for 2021.
I'll make the motion to, ineligible.
Tom made the motion. Been eligibility. Second.
I'll second.
Charlie seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 21. Comments?
2019 gross revenue was $24,000. 2021, it was $25,000.
That's an increase.
Their ending balance increased during that same period of time also.
I'll make a motion that number 21 is ineligible.
I'll second.
Charlie seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 22.
Again, it's the same issue. 2019, it was 1143, and 2021, it was 1276, so it actually increased.
If you look in the narrative, that wasn't revenue, that was,
Say what now?
if you look in the narrative, that was not considered revenue. It was considered
Yeah, I thought that, like,
Okay.
that.
donations
those,
by
like,
members to
own-
keep the
Yeah.
lights on.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I know they made mention of that, but the designation between donation from a member keeping the lights on versus someone not a member,
Yeah.
It's
I
still
mean,
a
there's still a
donation. It's still
donation.
revenue.
I'm assuming they're going to take it as a deduction. It'll still have the same effect.
It's still revenue.
It's still revenue.
It's still a donation. I mean, it's just an organization that they care for. And again, another good one.
Mhm.
Good organization.
Very good.
And the members stepped up for them. It's admirable.
Right, but in desperation over loss of revenue.
Exactly.
But again, that's the motion coming into it. It should be clear cut.
Do we have a motion on this one?
Following the guidelines, I will make a motion it's not eligible.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So it would be, Gregor, you're out of this one again? It would be 4-2-1.
We have 2 nays.
2 nays. Tom. Okay. 23. Comments?
There's no sufficient tax information, just this attestation page, and there's no breakdown of the budget and cost estimates to show any kind of loss of revenue or impact by COVID.
Any other comments? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion for non-eligibility.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. 24.
I think this one had really clear-cut profit loss. They showed 2019 a revenue of 160 and 2021 105, so there was a definite loss and very easy to compare.
I concur. They had all the documents we requested.
The only they provided really great information. I just would like to see a backup documentation on cost estimates.
That's not eligibility
That's not
though, right?
eligibility.
That goes
Not
by
for
the-
eligibility.
We're
No.
just, I'd make a motion that number 24 is eligible.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That one's in. 25.
I will abstain from this.
I will abstain.
2, 3, 4. Everybody else has to vote.
Is
That's
everybody
good.
going to abstain?
We'll all abstain.
I most definitely have to abstain.
Let's see what.
The applicant provided necessary documentation with the exception of only 1 year of tax information and lacked proof of loss of income via a P&L.
My notes here, I've got in here, the organization provided 2020 data, which doesn't allow comparison to confirm impact with the other years. So, with that said, it's lacking documentation.
So I'd make a motion that number 25 is ineligible.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Whoa, you got too many abstains.
We have 4 ayes and 3.
No, we don't.
We've got 3 abstaining already.
Right.
Charlie, you in?
No, I have to abstain.
1, 2, 3.
So let
4.
me tell you how Robert's Rules works. You only have to have a quorum to meet, so we've met that. Once we start abstaining, now the majority becomes whoever's left. If there was only one, they are the majority, the way Robert's Rules work. And we adopted Robert's Rules at the very beginning of this.
We did. We did.
You guys are fine.
Okay, so we have
3 and 4 abstentions.
304, yes.
So it was
Yeah,
Aaron.
and,
26.
The applicant only showed a loss in 21, an increase in 22, or,
I don't think there's any 2019 info.
yeah, there's no 19 info.
Yeah, they had 2020, their revenue was 6K, and 2021 it was 19.
Sorry, I was looking at the net.
And I've got a note in here, the organization shows an impact for 21, but the group's expenses increased 5-fold with building repairs,
Yeah.
ministry, and office expenses are the major reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if this falls into, I'm not sure what ministry they carry out, but that's, wouldn't work
We're
for
still
us.
missing the base year.
And we're missing the
missing the base year.
2019 year also for comparison purposes. So their gross revenue is actually up substantially in 2021
Compared to 20.
compared to
Compared to
20.
and no data for 19.
And note 19 to give us
So
a
that's,
It should.
lack of data.
And I'll
Yep.
make a motion to make this ineligible.
second.
Tom seconded it. Charlie was the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, because that's the only way of being consistent.
We have to be consistent.
it really sucks, but
I know
yes,
it
a lot
does.
of these do.
A lot of them.
Well, I mean, I'd like to find
But
out
it is
one
what
of
it
these.
is, right? It is what it is, so.
Okay, 27. This one may fall into the quick category.
Number 27, the budget that they submitted showed that they were spending the money on acceptable items, but in the application description, they say that they're spending money on non-acceptable items. In other words, on religious activities, which would make it not qualified.
I've also got a note 2019 documents were not provided, so a base year can't be established.
With the precedent that set with non-religion, and we've done that on number 12, I make a motion that we do the same thing with this one.
I'll second that motion, Tom.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 28.
Sorry, I'm fixing bad spelling. You can't spell worth a darn. 28?
28.
My note was non-acceptable documentation. Someone just hand wrote
Yeah.
two figures on a piece of paper. That is not documentation, because you can write anything you want.
Exactly.
And also, it's hard to read.
Yeah.
The motion ineligible due to lack of documentation.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 29.
Now, you and I discussed it. I don't know where did you find out if they belong to the town of Troy or they are their own entity? That would make a difference whether they're a government entity or not.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Volunteer.
I don't know.
What was explained to me were the only two were here and up the road. All the other departments are not considered county entities,
Or government entity.
government entities.
So it does not belong to the city.
Entities similar. We do have some in the county.
But did they apply?
I know
They did not
They
apply.
did not apply.
So,
Right.
Did were they under the premise that we weren't going to fund anything
not
like
that
this?
I was aware of.
I don't think so.
There's
So-
a gross revenue, they're showing a loss for 2021 compared to 2019, a loss of $5,000.
Well, with that said, I'll make the motion to consider them eligible unless we find out they're a government entity.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
I will
That's a
second
good
that.
motion.
So, they're not ineligible, they are eligible.
Eligible.
With the caveat that if they are a government entity, because we have not allowed other government entities, they would be removed then.
Right, if they're,
And the only reason that we're allowing that verification to happen outside of this is because that's something that we should know.
Yeah.
It was not a requirement of the application. It wasn't a
Right.
checkbox or anything else in there. Otherwise.
I was
we wouldn't.
assuming, Charlie
Right.
seconded, I was assuming they were governmental.
Yeah.
And that
And
could be
I
incorrect.
brought that
you know, and a
up.
lot of
I think
people
we
do assume
find
that on.
I think we need to find out, because their W-9 is just the town of Troy utilities, so they've got on there,
Oh.
So can
That-
we proceed with the motion, and then if we find
And
out
then
they are
we can
government?
rule it
because
ineligible.
Whoever made that motion put that exception in there. I think Tom did.
Tom did.
And
Yeah.
I'll second
So
that.
we have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I can verify that.
Opposed? Aaron's got a valid point with the W-9,
Yeah.
if they did
And,
use the
and
town.
again,
point.
just
Oh,
to
yeah.
make sure that we don't open a box of worms, the reason why we're allowing that kind of motion, not just a yes or no, is because that falls on us to find out.
Right.
Not part of the application.
Right.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Just to make sure there's not a can of worms that opens up because of that.
Can we possibly take a little break to stretch our legs?
That's a good
Bio
point,
break?
because we moved to a new
Yeah, that was the
category.
last
Let's do a bio break,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm okay with that. How long does it take? 5 minutes?
Aye.
5 minutes. We're gonna take
You
a
know,
quick
most-
break.
Most meetings that we break for 5 minutes ends up being 20. for some
Somebody got a
reason.
timer?
Who could we contact on that?
Pooter.
Okay.
You want me to?
Steve's the one that told me,
Right,
because it's.
but he's the chief.
Included.
Pooter's the chief.
He had his phone number?
That's right, you wanna address your name,
Yes.
I'm trying not to do that because if we get in, exactly, we'll be at 12:30 trying to answer those questions.
Randy, we got questions from the, are we gonna do all them at the end, or?
We're going to go through after this here, and we'll have our list of eligible entities that we feel are in compliance with what the regulations are. And then we'll in turn
I'll go backwards. You're right. No, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. I was out of sequence.
Okay, number 30.
Let me do a little prep here.
I have the applicant, they clearly demonstrated their purpose and need for in a plan for sustainability, that there was no indication of loss of revenue, no tax and documentation was included. The budget sheet that was attached was blank.
So I thought mental health would fell, when we discussed this before, fell under different rules. This is something new for Perry County, and this was to provide mental health services as a result of COVID, which would make a new organization eligible.
Yeah, if you look at the rubric, if you look, there in that rubric, there is nothing around loss of revenue.
And we did that on purpose.
That is correct.
Because it was not required for mental health services.
In this category.
In this particular category.
Any other comments?
I'd make a motion that it is, number 30 is eligible.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Tom, second?
I would like to just make a motion that all of them are eligible because I didn't see a single one of them that didn't have.
Let's go through each one of them, Greg.
Okay, that's fine.
We're not going
31.
to change now that you can vote.
Okay. 30's a yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
31.
30 is in.
31. I'd like to motion that it's eligible. I don't see anything that
I'll
keeps it from
second.
being.
I haven't even got it there yet. We have a motion and a second on 31. Let everybody get there before it. Any other comments before we take a vote? All those in favor of 31?
On 30?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, not 31, 32, go ahead.
Yep.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. 31's in. 32.
I will go to Erin. She seems like she has one.
No, I would love to fund it. My only question would be, they weren't able to check yet to that last one, about providing for,
32.
32. So first, it's something about a ministry, but I think the problem is that they don't have licensed.
I did see that, but I didn't know if that would disqualify them eligibility or not.
Well, I guess it depends on how you wrote the research.
I looked them up, and they first applied in Indiana February of 2022. Now, they were an organization in Kentucky. This is dated 2016. So
they had to answer no. I certify that the services or programs provided with the use of these grant funds will be carried out under the direction of supervised licensed professionals who are applicable and only for Perry County residents. And they checked no. But I can't remember if that was because like they couldn't just make sure that Perry County residents would only be like they were going to reserve some funds. Was that why?
That was part of the narrative, is that they couldn't guarantee that people outside of this county would not be.
Right. They wouldn't use funding to do it, but if they renovate a space, they're not going to like turn away. Right.
Yeah, so they're wanting to expand into Perry County
Mm-hmm.
for the purpose of providing services to Perry County. This is the one, if I'm thinking right, because currently Perry County residents drive to Kentucky for these services.
That is correct.
But if they open an office here and someone comes from Hawesville, they're not going to turn
They're
them
not
away.
going to turn them away.
And I think all these organizations are the same.
then my question is, did anyone find any, they made the statement they take care of people from Perry County in Owensboro.
Mhm.
Did anybody find any qualifications to that? Other than just
well,
the statement
if
that
you
said
look
it?
at this one, if I'm looking at the right one, double check me here. Oh no, I'm looking at the.
Well,
I'm sorry,
so
I got the wrong one.
It says, furthermore, this is our first entry into Indiana.
I
We have
apologize.
staff that are licensed by Kentucky, but we do not yet have any staff with an Indiana license. We hope to obtain this licensure in the future. However, we are still able to practice in Indiana as a ministry.
Right.
So that was my question. Like, I would love to fund them. I just don't.
Well,
know that.
I don't know if they would have anybody, if they don't have an entity here, that it'd be hard for them to have licensed professionals here.
They have to
I
open
think-
one up.
I think that's what they're saying, is that when they do, they will. They just have to have one
But I
started.
see what you're saying about ministry.
I just, because,
Oh, the word, oh,
Right.
Right.
That is included in a religious facility. So
I,
the question is eligibility.
Okay, so what do they say they're
I
spending the
don't
money
know
on?
enough about, when they say ministry, I don't know if that's just ministry in what sense of the word.
I mean, currently they're offering online counseling to Perry Countyans.
yes. That's why I didn't see that they weren't ineligible, but I understand your thought process too, so,
When it says, what do you hope to achieve with this funding, we hope to provide the stability of a permanent location in Perry County. Success will be measured by the amount of low-income individuals and families we will be able to serve.
Well, and they are to be located in a building that does have an owner with long-term plan for that building.
The question becomes eligibility. I mean, we'll discuss the details if they,
I still
I think we
they're
look at
eligible.
the budget here.
I'm leaning definitely towards the eligible, just in the basic qualifications. I just think we need to understand more what ministry versus.
I think when we have our
license.
contract, we need to be very clear.
okay. So is that a motion?
My motion is a yes, they are
I
eligible.
will second that.
We have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Therein. 33.
I did not see anything there either where it would stop them from doing what they're doing. I'll motion yes, just to open discussion if nothing else.
I'll second.
Discussion. You guys are trying to go by the rules.
I have discussion, but not on their eligibility, so.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah,
with it.
me too.
Yeah.
Not on
Not
eligibility.
on eligibility.
So we have a motion and a second.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Therein. 34.
Now we're in small business. Okay.
So how many of those are
Are you doing anything?
This is a big no-no for me.
so you're out of all of them?
I will try to help with questions, but just rule-wise. Big no-no.
I know. Any comments on,
I mean, are these the exact same eligibility as,
Small business would include a difference in gross revenue, so you
Yeah.
do-
the
are
loss
looking
of
for your-
revenue and
Yep.
COVID-related impact?
So we're into small business now.
Yeah, so it's the same kind of things that you disqualified them on for nonprofit. It's gonna be same things here.
Documentation.
Documentation, gain.
Okay.
oh, that I see 29.
There's no 2019 data provided. 2020 and 2021 are provided. They did show a loss from 2020 to 2021, but of $281.
back to no data for 19.
Right.
And our standard's been to deny eligibility.
So is that a motion, Charlie?
That's the motion.
I'll
Second?
second.
All those in favor? Opposed? So that one is ineligible. 35.
I marked that there was no information listed for 2021, and they were already awarded through the RRF and the PPP more money than they showed they lost from 19 to 20, even though that wasn't an eligible year. But there was nothing for 2021.
Nothing for 2021?
To be consistent, we need to,
Yeah, they received funding 2+ times more than they
Then they lost.
lost.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion 35 is ineligible.
second.
Seconded by
lack of
Tom.
I put no documentation on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ineligible. 36.
Thirty-six is the same thing, no evidence of funds lost in 2021.
No documentation or no gain? Sorry, to be clear.
No documentation. Yes, that's a motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 37.
I'll abstain.
One abstention. 37. Any comments?
Unless I'm on the board.
We have 2019, I got a note here, documentation, but the business wasn't even located here. She moved to a location in Tell City in her home. And I got a note here, it's hard to compare revenue in a different state versus revenue in a home-based business.
Operation in a different state.
How can that be consistent?
And she received grants.
Gate all the mines.
Even with that, if it were in the state, if you add the EIDL received in 2021, then there would not be a loss.
Do I have a motion on this one?
Motion ineligible.
Tom made the motion, a second.
I'll say-
Second.
Oh, go ahead, Sharon.
All those in favor?
Sharon.
I had a
Aye.
abstention.
Opposed? One abstention. 38.
$2019 gross revenue was $272K. 2021 was an increase, $278K. Even if you go down to net income, it was still a huge increase.
Yeah.
Or to be consistent, we need to
Mhm.
deny eligibility.
So it's no loss.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion, Tom?
Yes.
Tom made the motion.
I'll second.
Charlie seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's ineligible. 39.
39 had a gross revenue of $2.1 million in 2019 and $2.3 million in 2021. So we have $0.2 million gain.
They also received substantial compensation through other forms.
$432,000.
Yep.
I'll make the motion that it's ineligible.
Charlie made the motion. It's ineligible.
I'll second.
Second, Tara. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 40. See, takes me a while.
My comment was there was no evidence of loss in 2021. However, in 2021, they have already received $570,000 in government funding for COVID.
And I've got a note here, exceeds their losses 4 times what was reported. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Tom seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Greg, what company you in on all these, right? No.
I'm abstaining from all these.
Okay. I wondered about
I
that.
work for more than 10 of them, so.
So you're staying from all of these?
Small business, yeah.
It's mental
Pam,
health.
he only voted on 4.
Yeah, mental health.
It's a short night.
Yeah, yeah, but he's doing all the legwork on the computer.
I only spent 2
41.
days on the spreadsheet, you know.
There was insufficient documentation and incomplete application.
Motion ineligible.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 42.
What was that one for? Documentation?
Documentation was lacking.
Thank you.
For 42, my notes say that they already received more than was lost in 2020, and there's no evidence of loss in 2021. So, I think close to $190,000 already received.
And no 2021 documentation.
No 2021 documentation.
I need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion to
Make him
not
ineligible.
qualified.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 43.
Wouldn't make the other all,
I think for this one,
Takes me a while to page down.
there's no documentation. They did receive PPE. Gross revenue does not clearly illustrate the loss of revenue.
We'll make the motion to lack of documentation. Ineligible.
I'll second.
Tom made a motion, Tara second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Documentation.
Opposed?
No 2021.
44. I've just got a notation down there, net revenue difference of 7,000 and 88,000 was received in outside funding.
I have the same note.
So they were compensated well in excess of their supported loss.
I'll make a motion that they're ineligible, number 44.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 45.
Oh, I have to abstain. It's promotion. I'm Ken to have.
Same thing.
This one is, the income actually, if my notes are correct, is higher in 2020 than 2019, and there's not any documentation for 2021, if that is correct.
I have the same thing.
For that, I will make the motion to.
Tom made the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
One abstention. 46. 46.
We actually had a revenue increase from 2020 to 2019 and nothing provided for 2021, and received 10K PPP already.
Oh, I had that as 2021 game, but it's 2021 documentation.
It's lacking 2021, isn't it?
documentation,
sorry.
yeah.
But actually 2020 was a better year than 2019.
Yeah.
That's why I had it in my notes as a game. So.
Yeah, so. The COVID impact. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 47.
He's not so fast.
Yeah, we got 3 more, so.
Did they have 2019 documentation?
No, 0 for 2019.
Was this business even open in 2019?
They were not.
No, so it doesn't, I think we compare 2020 then, that's the base.
2020.
What does it say for March 3rd of what year, 2020?
2021 is the effective starting. It's
I
March
have
3rd,
issues with this one,
2021.
but they look eligible to me.
Yes.
It says right here, funds must be used for cost incurred on or after March 3rd, 2021. On or after March 3rd, 2021.
Oh, okay.
Third,
Wait a minute.
29.
Yeah, the revenue did, the revenue increased in 2021 from 2020, but their net income, they lost.
That's
Right,
I'd be
for
going
this-
off revenue because that's what the rubric says is revenue.
And they also had a category in there, and it's not relevant on eligibility, but they have some large numbers for leasing that weren't incurred in previous years.
Mhm. But compared to previous,
The revenue's up
Evaluations.
substantially. Yeah. Gross revenue.
they should be ineligible if we're using the same.
Are you making that motion, Tom?
Yes, I am.
Second?
I'll second.
Longest
Charlie,
note
second.
yet.
No, that was non-eligible.
Non-eligible.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 48.
I showed a, yeah, this one was a little different. This one provided lots of documentation.
But also some funding.
And I show a net, total income was 97K in 19 and 134K. I'm sorry, 134K in 19 and 97K in 2021.
Hold on, go back.
Really shouldn't be.
So 20,
Is that read right? I had a game.
so it's 134 total income in 2019. 2020 was 183, but then 2021 was 96,000.
Okay.
So kind of a
Mhm.
Right.
So they're eligible then.
I'll make a motion
They are
they're
eligible?
eligible. They are eligible.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Eligibility. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I'm going to abstain on this one.
This last one?
This last one, I'm abstaining.
I'm related.
You relate way too many
I know.
You relate to everybody too.
people. And you're from Texas.
I know.
Okay, the last one, the one we've been looking for, 49.
Revenue in 2019 was 130K, in 2021 it was only 21K, and also if you look at the profit, it was down substantially as well.
I think they're eligible. I'll make that motion.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
I made the motion that they are eligible. Can we have a second?
Me.
Sherry? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're done with those.
6, 7,
Okay.
8, 9.
Now, the next step we're going to do, and as we get into those, now that we've identified the group that is eligible,
Going back to nonprofits.
yeah, we'll start right back over. And with that, we're going to name the groups that have become eligible. And then we're going to discuss the other issues involved with their application, whether there are any, and how do we want to approach this funding-wise? I mean, I know we have certain stipulations, and as a group,
Well, currently, if you want to know the total right now, I can go to the summary.
there's a cap per.
That we put on there?
There's a cap per group.
But
Does anybody
but-
have that?
But give me 1 second.
It's
Okay.
on the,
It's on the
I
application.
don't
He's
think you're
doing
going to
that.
have
You
a
want me to read
problem.
off all the ones that were eligible,
No.
so
Sure, you
that-
can. Go ahead.
So I'm going
So-
to read off all the ones that are eligible in case your organization is not eligible and you didn't want to stay for the rest of it. The ones we marked as eligible, you guys please track me and make sure I don't mess
You
this
want me to
up.
give you the number?
Number 2, which was the Perry County Museum. Number 11, which was the Knights of Columbus, Council 1172. Number 16, which was the Perry County Chamber of Commerce. Number 17, which was the William Tell Senior Citizens. Number 24, which is the Tell City Schweizerfest, Inc. Number 29, which was the Troy Fire Department. That one was considered eligible pending our determination as to whether it's a government entity or not.
Correct. Total fund request is at 308,706 and 45 cents.
you got the cap amount factored in?
What's that?
You got that cap amount factored in?
Okay. Number
No, but that's
Let's
all that
finish
is.
this.
That's all that it's actually asked for.
Number 30 was Youth First under Mental Health. Sorry. Number 31 is Life Springs Health Systems under Mental Health. Number 32, Revive Counseling Center, Mental Health. Number 33, Building Blocks, Mental Health. And then, under Small Business, we have Stiles and Simon Enterprises, and we also have Hawhe's Auction Service.
That's correct. So at this point, it's okay to show the names?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, can you add in what the maximum allowable, I mean, if their request exceeded what we had targeted?
Sure. What
see
do we
how
want
that-
to start with? Nonprofits?
Nonprofit.
Yeah, we'll start back at
Let's
the
start
top
with
again.
nonprofits. Okay. So, do we know what the max was? 25?
I'm thinking it was.
What they requested, is that what you're asking?
What they
No,
requested.
no, I
They
got
were-
what they requested.
Okay, 18K, is that correct?
No, I believe what you're asking is what was the maximum they
I
could
think the
request
maximum
for.
we were allowing.
But we set it, did we actually set that amount? Or-
Yes.
Well,
Yes,
we
we
did
did. We did.
with the understanding that
That we
maybe
may
moved
flux it.
around in case we didn't have,
We had,
And then, for nonprofits?
No.
Go back to our
So for-
videos and,
Nonprofit, the total amount was 350K, but we had a maximum.
500 to 25,000 with exceptions made depending on illustrated.
so
500 to 25,000.
leave it as is and decide what you want to award them is what I suggest.
Yeah, but, okay, so nonprofit is 500 to 25,000. I think that she just said 350,000 cap for that category, for that whole nonprofit.
Yes, the 308, it's 308,706 if we awarded all of them that are eligible right now.
And
at
our
their full
max-
amounts.
Our max was 350, so I think where we are is just to discuss how much we want to award each one.
Each
If
one.
we did full award, we'd be okay.
That is correct. So,
Perry County Museum.
I show that they have, they requested, what'd they request, Greg? 18?
18,000.
About
18,000.
18,000.
now, that was negative effects funding request, and there was a support service funding request of 18 as well.
Yeah, do you think people meant to do that though? That was my question.
Yeah.
Like when people filled in fill in the amount twice, like sometimes people put 25,000 and 25,000, and I didn't know if they meant
That's
I want
exactly-
25,000 or I want 50,000.
Yeah, and
I
some
had
put
the
50
same.
and some put 4,
Yeah.
depending on the category, so.
They show a loss of 14K from the base year to 2021. They did receive a $9,000 grant already, but it was not a COVID-related grant. It was for something completely different.
So to make them whole would take 14,000.
Would take 14K.
And they requested
18.
18.
And they agreed to take less.
I mean, that's the question, or do we want to make them
They actually
whole?
checked no, but then they talk about they will.
Or do we want to, I mean, with our funding?
I make a motion that we fund the Perry County Museum $14,000.
And I'll second it. That sounds good.
It's the amount of the loss. Could we do the exact amount? Because I rounded mine.
We can do whatever you wish.
Does anybody have
It
it?
looks like it is the exact amount. It is the exact
Yeah.
amount. So 14,000.
Okay.
Did you second?
I just punched that number in.
Tom seconded that
Yeah.
one.
Like 14,000.
14.
Yes. Is there any other discussion, comments? All right, let's have a vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That will be our recommendation.
I take them to 6-0 because we're still abstaining, right?
Yes.
Okay. The next one's going to be the Knights of Columbus,
And that is number 11.
number 11.
That's for 20.
Because I'm just going by numbers right now, so that way.
They asked for 20 and 5.
So they asked for 25 total.
This one, it's a little awkward. They sold their facility and it was completed March 1st, 2021. So they have no home. They did not share with us what happened to the revenue from the sale. And they're looking for money to secure a new location. Thoughts? I'm not sure exactly where the money went, whether it went into a religious organization or whether it went to a other charitable fund, and how that impacts us because
Can we
of the-
table till we find that out? Is that fair?
I mean, it's
So could we table this one?
That's what Tom-
Requesting more information on where the
Tom
revenue
is
from the
suggesting
sale
it
went?
to try to find out a little more detail as far as if they actually transferred it to a religious organization.
Audience that might speak on their behalf.
Is there anyone from Knights of Columbus here? Do you know what was done with the money from the,
I didn't know what they asked for. I didn't have anything to
So-
do with the application process.
At one time, I think they were advertising it at a little under 300,000. Now, I don't know what they sold it for. The tax records show substantially less.
yeah, it didn't
One
sell for
place
that.
it showed, I think 130, maybe 160 or something in that range is what the building actually sold for. But,
I know what they sell for that.
so,
Well, do you know?
You know, one of those two guys that's on that application.
Okay. So
So-
neither one of you know what the,
I don't know where they did with it,
what happened to the,
or how much for sure they got out of it. I didn't even know what they asked for either.
They asked for 25,000.
May I
So-
give an opinion that's
Sure.
not, it's not a yay or nay opinion, it's just I think that at this point, with as few applicants as we now have, we probably can say, and we know they're eligible, go
Yes.
back for more information at this point, is what I.
Now, the question becomes, as we go through these, if we go down that path, how do we want to structure that? Do we want to have a given amount of time for a response? We need to have a public meeting that actually, where the discussions are held. So,
Right.
I mean, what's the consensus here? I mean,
Right.
a week, 10
'Cause we're-
days,
We're really
15
not,
days?
We're really not talking about what we're talking about the amount that we award them, not that they're eligible.
Right.
They're eligible. We've already
So-
established that.
So
But
to
the
me,
question
I
becomes,
set a date and have them.
and the question, what is a reasonable time for any
No
organization
more
we
than
have?
10 days.
Yeah,
And then,
Agreed.
yeah,
I agree with Charlie.
so,
next week,
it's a bigger room.
fine with me.
yeah.
So, today's Tuesday, do you want to give them
It would be the 19th.
a little more time?
I think a week is,
Week is sufficient for,
What I'm thinking is they probably need to provide the data to us so we can review it, and then, so we're prepared at the meeting. How about get it to us within a week and have a meeting on a Thursday? Does that work?
I think that's not good.
We kind of lost after, so you're wanting them to do another meeting?
Well, if we choose to go down this path of asking for additional information because we just don't know a period of time, and we're discussing right now 7 days, to get it to us as a board, which will allow us 2 days to read through whatever they provide us, then we would have another public meeting on Thursday.
Which would be the 21st.
Following that, does that work? I mean,
Yes.
What about,
Teresa won't be here, so it won't be live streamed. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know how to set this all up for here unless.
are you gone that whole week, Teresa?
No, I'm off Thursday afternoon.
oh, what about Wednesday?
Well, we meet Wednesday.
Wednesday? Will that work?
What day?
Wednesday, that's what?
20th?
Wednesday the 18th. It'd be Wednesday.
No, it wouldn't be the 18th.
No, the
It'll be
20th.
It'd be the
20th.
Wednesday, the 20th.
I'm thinking this week.
Oh, Wednesday the 20th.
Yeah, because this Wednesday will be, tomorrow's the 13th, so a week from tomorrow.
Wednesday the 20th. What is that?
Thursday,
The
it's
earliest,
Thursday.
the
No,
earliest.
it's
I
not
could do
Monday,
is
Thursday, it's
6:30.
next one.
Thursday, the 21st. Yeah, I should be available on Thursday, too.
Okay.
Let's
Thursday
do
works?
Thursday, then that gives us more
Earliest
time
I can
to
do is
review.
6:30, due to a prior commitment.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think this should be
No,
a,
it shouldn't be
Just
that
wanted
long.
to, just wanted to make that known.
so
Okay.
you can make it at 6:30?
Sure.
21st at
Yes.
6:30.
Will you get a hold of Betty to find
What
out
year are
about
you
the
looking
building?
21st
Okay.
at 6:30 in the evening.
So it's going to be a public meeting,
Yes. has to-
Greg is responsible for 6:30.
public meeting for additional
So sorry.
information, right?
Yeah.
Now, what we ask the applicants is to have it to us by Tuesday,
Tuesday.
By Tuesday.
So,
the 19th.
Who's going to ask the applicant?
6:30 on 421, right? I'm there.
yes.
I'll ask him if you want me to.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out if this is available.
Doing it right now.
He's checking with Betty right now.
So on their application, they check that
Okay,
both
so I'm gonna,
amounts
can
are
I
matching.
intervene here a little
Sure.
bit as far as how the
They did
funding
what
is
now?
gonna go, as far as the timing?
Yeah.
Because once you all figure out the funding as far as what you're doing for the application, One of you, which I would suspect the president, will need to go to the following commissioners meeting, that you have to inform them as far as what your decisions are, and you have to let them know how much money that you need to do for an additional appropriation. Then it has to go, that appropriation, if the commissioners approve it, then we'll go to the council. So right now, that you need to make sure these applicants know, we're probably looking at a July 1
Why?
as far as awarding the dollars.
Well, I think the applicants need to know that depending on how it all works out, we may have to write a contract even, and so we don't even have that in place at this point, so.
Right, so I mean,
I don't think
I'm
we're-
just saying, we could be looking, I thought we were gonna be looking at June 1, but we could be back now to July 1 as far as
I s-
releasing the
And
dollars.
also,
Just so everybody's so.
I
that you
suspect
understand
with
that.
how these rules and regulations are, we're gonna have to enter into something that confirms they're going to follow what this requires us to do.
We have to create a sub-recipient contract.
So,
I provided some examples.
There's some
to you
examples.
guys.
yeah.
but also,
Probably if it
Pam,
turned
each
around.
one of these organization that gets the money has to become a vendor of the county, so there's
Right, so I
paperwork
still
for
have to get, I
that.
have to get information through. I'm just
We don't have
very
giving you the timeline
Huh?
as far as
We don't have very
where,
many.
what I
Well, I
need
know,
as
but
far
what
as
I'm
going
saying-
to
Yeah.
the
Some of them may already be
commissioners, so they
vendors.
know, so the commissioners can grant what they need on the additional, then that additional has to still get to the council before I
Correct.
can award the money.
So it's not gonna be
As far as your
tomorrow.
other
Right.
forms, that's what you guys, but I'm just saying right now, the timeline I'm looking at, you're probably looking at July 1.
Is that form online for the vendor?
No,
Okay, so you will have to do paper
No.
copies. So that might be something else that we want to make sure we have to get out so they can start on that.
well, yeah, we'll have to have W-9s and things.
Well, they submitted them with their application.
The W-9s are.
Is this
Okay,
next Thursday just gonna be because of what you
right now,
Yeah.
Teresa, it's just gonna be the KFC. If we find in the,
so say, you could do this at the ARPA.
something else,
You wanted to use an ARPA for business.
Sure, Cole.
We have this much room there as here, so.
On a Thursday night, they don't want anything going.
Tuesday.
Thursday night.
Tuesday.
Thursday.
Thursday, the 21st.
Thursday, the 21st.
Tuesday, they're gonna have to
get
have
us the
their
We have to
info.
information.
have the applications back to us on Tuesday, but Thursday.
How did I mess that up?
So the question is now,
I need more chocolate.
Chocolate.
we need to think about what else we want to ask them so they can provide all the documentation so it doesn't become a continuous, I want more. So we want to know what happened with the funds and where they ended up from the sale of the facility. We have this question of sustainability.
Thursday, you said,
No, this Thursday she's on.
I mean, I think that would be something else. You know, if we provide $25,000 worth of funding to them, how does that put them back into business and keep them active within the community for a period of time? So those are the two things. Is there anything else that we would want them to address?
Do we need to have
Not-
some type of time frame on like, okay, you're gonna find either start leasing a place or purchase?
Excellent idea. Have a time. Is somebody putting these down?
I am.
I'm starting on it right now.
Yeah.
Isn't that spelled out in the regulations? I guess we awarded that.
Right, but what we want them to do is, again, you know, if they are going to be provided the funding, they have a time frame to be established, to get back open, and how they're going to address that. Anything else?
The other thing I would suggest is we need to notify the other ones that did not receive anything as to why, so they'll know moving forward if they need to reapply on the second tranche or the second round. I think
a letter to each one of them is.
because we have
yeah.
some really good
Yes.
organizations that need to be funded, and
Yes.
you know,
I agree.
I hate to see it because of the lack of documentation.
Right.
So, help me with the questions now that you got my attention to write them down here. So what's the first one?
Sherry's writing them down.
What happened to the dollars from the sale of the current building? Or the past building, whatever.
Previous
I'll put it in the
facility.
building. Previous building. Okay.
They did, the next thing we said was sustainability, but they do have quite a long statement about sustainability already. That is one of the questions.
Yeah, I
How
think
does the organization plan to remain sustainable and adapt to future negative conditions? But we could still ask them if we need to.
That would tie into the timeline too.
Yeah.
I mean, you
And
have
then
to,
timeframe was the third question, Greg.
in today's market.
Timeline of what?
As far as if we
Purchasing.
provide the funds, for instance, if we give them what they're asking for,
25K.
25,000, when will they be open? How will they be operating? And the sustainability comes in. How are they going to continue to be a active organization in the community?
Already put that in their app.
Yeah, they already did.
They did put that
I'll
already.
put sustainability comments, but I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it's in the app, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they can
Okay,
reiterate.
who's
Well, in 20
contacting the KFC? Somebody needs to volunteer to do
I
that.
abstained, I can't. I'd love to, but. Also to note, in our application guide and beforehand, we noted in here that the grant award recipient shall be required to submit semi-annual reports in accordance with the grant timeline provided above.
Which is part of the final ruling.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we need to make
That's
sure
going to
that
be
we cover
incorporated
that.
in that contract that I feel like will have to be addressed, that they're willing to do this.
I volunteer to contact them then. If they have somebody listed on
Brian
here,
Reese.
surely they do.
Brian
Okay,
Reese.
I'll contact them.
Go back to the motion on number 11, is that being tabled?
At this point, I guess, until
Yeah, the
we
amount.
collect further.
They are eligible, but the amount has
So,
not been
Tom,
determined.
you made the motion to table?
And did we get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. Greg probably abstained too.
I did. What was the amount? I'm sorry that we did? Or did we do?
25K is what they requested.
25, so the
Okay, the next one is the Perry County Chamber of Commerce.
number 16.
Yes.
Well, first of all, they requested 97K, which was outside of
Right.
what we were funding. 25K would be the max.
I'm abstaining.
Well, if we're gonna stick to our maximum, then.
They showed a $21,000 loss, but they've already been awarded $9,500. That does not need to be repaid.
What'd you say the loss was? 20?
21,000.
Around 21,000.
Yeah, slightly less than 21. And then they received 9,000,
9,500.
so
12,000.
roughly 12. The one thing that concerns me about them, it seems that the organization's expenses continue to increase 2019, 2020, 2021. And they're having revenue shortfall. Again, the question of sustainability. And they're not controlling these expenses.
I have questions on what the money will be spent for. They put 25,000 for other. I don't know what that is. And 17K for marketing. It seems from the write-up that they're wanting to provide marketing for other businesses, which means that now we're sub-granting, and I don't know that we can do that. So I think we do the same thing we do with the KFC and ask the question.
Table it until we have the answer to the question.
But we got to decide what questions we want answered.
Sustainability.
How are they going to address, I mean, their expenses are up 16,000 from 19 to 21, which is about 20%, a little better.
questions on the marketing. Is that for individual businesses, which would be a sub-grant, which we can't do?
I think that's not even a question.
Not
That's-
even a question?
No.
Okay.
So the marketing's out, so I don't need to even, okay.
Yeah, there's no real plan, like, behind it.
Well, and then, to me, I just looked at the company they're going to engage in that. I don't know that they have any experience at all.
Yeah, that was my
Well, we don't want to go
mistake,
down the rabbit hole of a subrecipient of a subrecipient.
No.
Right.
Right.
No,
So-
we don't.
So the question is sustainability and
And then I think the other part of, you just deny that part of the request, right?
Right.
and if we make them back whole, we're going to roughly 12 or 13,000.
Yeah.
Would put them back to
Mhm.
just like we did at the museum. It was 14, so
Do you want me to just put that in just so that we have a rough
Well,
figure
the
in there?
figure, I think, is 12,500, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But do we need to ask them about sustainability?
yes.
So this is a table one then?
We'll table it, asking more information on how they propose to get their expenses under control, because with the loss, the loss in 2021 is $24,000. Now, if we grant them $13,000, that covers half of their loss. Where are they going to be tomorrow?
Right.
And so they need to have that issue discussed and some type of a plan in place to make them continue to be viable here in the community.
So somebody gonna make a motion to take it?
Well, the other thing to note, I'm sorry, the other thing to note, in 2020, they had a pretty significant decrease in sponsorship income, and I'm wondering if that's the marketing piece she's looking at, I don't know. To help with that. I think sustainability would be most important.
The question is if she's lost contributors, are they coming back?
Mhm.
So the two questions I have is what is other in your budget? I heard that one.
The other should never be in a budget.
Yeah, I agree with
Correct.
that. Other is a terrible word to use anywhere. And then sustainability comments. Was there a third one?
Question the legitimacy of the marketing,
Of what?
the marketing company.
Well, I think we've already decided the sub-grant's
Okay,
irrelevant, so
okay,
that one's out.
okay.
So we're not going to grant to her.
So I'll make the motion to table this pending further information as noted.
I'll say that.
Second by
Abstain.
Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aaron and
Opposed?
I abstain.
So we have 2 abstentions.
Mhm.
Charlie, will you ask her the questions? Since I've already put your name by them.
Okay.
Okay,
Just
that-
so that she knows what we're going to be asking her on that day.
The next
Say
one
that now.
is William Tell,
Wait,
senior
who's
citizen.
Charlie will be the
contact
contact to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
You said William Town?
William Tell, that'll be 17.
17.
I was confused on their budget, and
I'd like to
maybe
get-
I was stupid, but it's got like total loss from 2020 to 2021 was like $8,900, but then it has total loss with donations was $11,841. So I would think with donation, like I'm not sure they actually lost money.
If you look at their gross revenue, 19, it was 19,000, and 2021 was 15,000, so it's only a loss of 4,000, but they requested 50K.
Well, I have a problem with a lot of the budget items too. It's like
Yeah.
They're going to remodel
$5,500,
their kitchen equipment.
right? But it was $5,500 for condiment packets and silverware.
Yeah.
But what does this mean, I guess? I don't understand. The total loss was that, but with donation.
4.
Well, the income change is $4,000, and that's gross. net income change is roughly 1,700,
Well, and there's no cost estimate for the list.
14.3 in 2021, so their expenses are down along with the revenue, so.
We've been doing gross revenue all along.
Yeah.
Let's stick with the,
So 4K? Or do we need more info?
What's the consensus? What's the thought process here?
I thought it was pretty simple, they have
I
lost
do too.
revenue.
Make a
I'll make
motion.
that motion.
What's that, Charlie?
$4,000.
$4,000.
I'll second it.
Tom seconded. 4,000, we'll put them back, gross revenue to where they were in 2019. So,
Vote.
so now we're on 24.
okay, we got a motion and a second.
Oh, sorry. Jumped the
All
gun.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So that's a ward of $4,000.
$4,000. The next one is Tell City Schweitzer Fest,
They're already a vendor.
number 24.
Okay, what we got on
So they're,
How much did they request?
20? Basically 55.
55. If you compare, they requested 55, and if you compare the gross revenue of 2019 to the gross revenue of 2021, it's 55,000. So I would make a motion that we award 55,000 to Tell City Schweitzer Fest.
Now, me being a different approacher to that,
But we have a
20
motion on the floor. You have to get a second. and
okay,
then
and do
discussion.
I have a second? You're trying to follow
Then we
rubber.
discuss. I'm trying to follow Robert's
you
rules.
are.
We
Yeah.
need a second and then discussion.
Absolutely.
No one seconds the motion, it'll fail if we don't.
Motion fails. Do I have an additional motion for something? I'll make one where our tiers were 25,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion
Oh, thank you. I didn't, yeah, I'm a dummy.
We didn't want
to provide
point that
25,000.
You take great pleasure in that.
out, Sharon. It's a good organization.
Do we,
Exception, there is an exception.
Thank you.
do we have a second?
Okay, what was the motion, the 25?
25,000.
I will second that.
Discussions?
The only discussion I had was on their, any cost estimates? Let's see, or is this just loss of revenue?
Neg effects of funding was 50,000. No services needed for the
Hold on,
25.
Yeah. 2020 was ugly. 2019 was substantially better than 2021. I look at it a little different because if I make $100 and it costs me $50 in gas to drive there and get it, my net loss is $50. In the case of then, it's 26,000 in 2019 and 2,500 in 2021. So if we got their net money back to them, it would be 24,000. So
$24,339.
That's
So the-
net profit, though.
that's the net.
No, that's net income.
Yeah.
Well, it's net.
Loss of net
Net
income
income.
for 2021 was $24,339, and they requested 25K.
So what it actually does is brings them back to somewhat whole. They don't have their gross revenue, but they do have what they actually had net income in 2019. So that's why I made that motion, and it stays in compliance with what we said we'd give away.
And I'll second.
I think you did.
No,
Somebody
Charlie did.
Charlie did.
Charlie did,
So don't
okay.
second again. So any other discussions?
Yes.
So we'll have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Schweitzer Fest, 25,000.
Fire department. Mike?
Okay, are we going to hold off, or are we going to?
The Troy Fire Department probably needs to fall into that same one. Now, we can have a discussion on that and determine if we need, what other additional information we need from the fire department.
I already put Troy Fire Department government entity as a question.
That's the question.
Okay.
I think we should determine what we're awarding them if they're not a government
I
entity.
agree.
So
I
let's
agree.
get into that one. And
And their loss was only $5,000.
29,
They requested 50K.
Yeah.
2019 was around 36,000 and 2021 was around 31,000. If we want to get exact numbers, we could, but it's about
I
5,000.
think, rounded off. I would be willing to make that motion if they are eligible with their credentials.
Sure.
That we award them $5,000.
To make them whole again.
it puts them back to what?
Put them back to whole again.
Put them back, yes.
I'll second Charlie's
What was
motion.
that amount again?
5,000.
5,000, okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussions?
Well, was their request 50,000 or 25,000?
50.
Or do we know?
Well, it might have been. It depends on how they
Well,
filled
yeah,
it
how
out.
they
Either
read it.
way,
The question was really.
either way, we give them
Yeah,
5,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is this gonna be, because are you still gonna do the questions, or is this?
Contingent upon
This is-
them
so-
not being
right.
a government entity.
So that'll
And
still be on your.
Tom
Yes.
was going to
Want me to find
research
that
that,
Tom,
right?
I will do
I
that.
put your name already
Okay,
on it,
Tom.
Tom.
You got
Tom will
that one.
find out whether they are
It's right
government.
If we fund everyone at 100%, we won't go over the total 500K.
But just so you know, total scores, two of them are 1-8 and 1-6 and 1-4. So they're relatively close to one another regardless anyway.
So there's not a one
He's
that's,
not looking at you, but
It doesn't matter.
There's not one that's very large at all, different
Revenue
ones.
funding request up there, or what they actually asked for them?
That is what they asked for. 20, 75, 33, 5.
And
You want me to
this
zoom in a little
is
bit?
The one that asked for 20, right? They just had
I got you.
Yeah,
I
they're
got you.
only
They had a
asking
big
for
match.
20,000.
They had, they were matching the rest of it, right?
okay, so let's take a look at 30, which is Youth First.
Yep.
I'll make the motion to fully fund it, 20,000.
I'll second Tom's motion to fully fund it.
Discussions. And they asked for 20,000? Any discussions?
This is the one that is with Perry Central, correct?
Perry Central Schools.
I think so, they,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's new mental health funding.
And they're established at the school already anyway, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Hearing no others, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 20,000.
That's 7.
And that's 31.
Yeah, try watching this, it says
31, LifeSpring Health Systems.
The only comment I have is they noted some other funding, but on a regional view, not specifically for Perry County.
well, the county, I think, is $100,000.
Yeah.
Is what we budget.
Right. And they also do plan to match 20,000 for the salary and benefits, but that part wasn't included in the budget.
I'm going to tell you that this is the only one that I gave a 4 for the project overview.
Yeah.
It's the only one. I'm reading through it. I was like, it's a 4.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
it is. I thought they had a good application.
Yeah, you don't have him in order, Greg, because
Well,
I,
they've got sustainability.
Yep.
addressed.
What do you want? 30. It's 31.
31.
yeah, I said 31, because I had down here, fund
And they're
them for
just
that amount.
continuing what the other group that they bought out was doing, Southern Hills.
I have no worries on it.
I'd make
Then
a
make a
motion that
motion.
we fund them 33.5K, which was the difference.
Second.
What they asked for, 75?
Nope, 33.5.
33.5.
He's got them out of order.
Yeah.
No. If you read the
They've
numbers,
all been out of order.
31 is
We're just trying to
LifeSpring.
confuse us.
the numbers, right beside it.
Okay, we have a motion and a
Numbers right next to
second.
it.
If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 33.5 for Life Springs.
No,
Number 32 is Revive Counseling Center.
This is the one we questioned about because there was some,
They just established here in Indiana.
Their project over review to me too was a little a little lacking. It
If
was
I
a-
go back to the compliance requirements, and by any means do I don't want to mix any of these programs.
Right.
Because there's so
We
many
understand.
here. We stated before that organizations must provide mental and/or behavioral health services through providers who are licensed and in good standing with the state of Indiana.
They cannot prove that,
Well, they're
at
not.
this time.
Yeah, until
Today, they're not.
we kind of
I
gave them
thought you
actually a
had-
buy on that when we were talking about eligibility because
Right.
they don't have an
But
entity
they
here to
are.
be able to do that.
They
It's
just
kind of hard to
registered.
have.
But I don't think
And
they
I
have.
think we would have to need to ask them the question of, if you were awarded this and you did this, you would be certified. They would have to state that. I think if
I
you read their
agree.
narrative,
I agree.
they didn't want to say that because they didn't know how they could say
But we
it.
also, in the beginning
Yes.
of all this, last year, we mentioned they don't have to be here as long as they serve here.
That's right. That's right.
So do we have
But
questions
the
for
whole
them
thing of
before-
theirs was to provide services in Perry County because they're saying people don't have the money to travel to Kentucky.
Yes.
But I understand their quandary and
I
their
do too.
honesty. Let's put it this way.
Very
Really, it's
honest.
honest. They could have said, yes, they're going to be certified. But in reality, they don't know if they're going to have a place. That's the reason why they said, we're not going to say we're Indiana certified because we don't have a place. How can we say that if we don't have anybody on the payroll that's Indiana
Well,
certified?
they've been offered an area inside,
Sure.
They have an area, but even Josh, like, I don't know.
But why would you go to the trouble of getting someone
what I'm
certified
saying.
until you get the money approved?
That's what I'm saying.
And so I think
It's a
that-
quandary that they're in. And the only reason we're questioning is because they were very honest about it.
Okay.
They could have checked that box and put in their
Right.
thing that they were going to be.
Yeah,
What-
we weren't-
What
I
if we,
would have liked even some support letters or something.
Yeah.
You know,
Do
that
we
would
need
have been
further clarification on what they mean by ministry?
Oh,
Are we okay with
Yeah,
that?
that was
Where
the
was
red
it?
flag.
Yeah.
Because like what they said, if until we would have licensed therapists, we could still practice ministry. But I guess that's my point. Like by ministry, what is that defined as?
He just left the Methodist Church in
Right,
Branchville
right.
to take this position as a counselor with them.
The other question you would have to ask is, part of our funding goes to renovating a facility for his use. Now, is there other facilities available to him without the renovation so that he could carry out this mission?
Like
Where's
if
the
we didn't
renovation?
fund the renovation?
Yes, for instance, because what we were doing is actually funding the mental health aspect.
Right.
And could they locate at some other location within the community to carry out the task that did not require the renovation? So, I don't know if that's,
I know
a
Virginia's
consideration.
offering them a room, but-
Right.
and saying, hey, this is yours, you can do it, but then again,
Yeah, they've
you're
got,
giving them money to make a renovation on the
I
property.
can't
they don't own.
Right.
Work ethic.
And we
So
also
far
ask for
behind, so
them
we don't know what
leases
the
and
timeline's
things
gonna
like
be.
that in our application.
Aaron, I'm sorry, Tara, the one problem, I know that organization and they're trying to find someone to do the work, so the timeline, we have no idea what the timeline's gonna be for them to even start on that. So I agree with Randy, maybe we should take out that part on the,
renovating. I mean, I'm just, I don't know whether there's places available, and the timeline is valid. If there is a place that he can locate, start tomorrow after he gets his funding, that's what we want. We don't want it to be an extended 3 or 4 years from now or whatever.
Well, it can't be, it has to be spent and done.
Right.
by
Yeah, it needs to be move on.
2024,
So, timeline would be another question.
so do we table this again and
Ask
someone
for
call
voice.
and ask the questions?
I believe
and
we have two
them present?
questions. Two questions. One, the first one is a double hitter, define ministry and verify certification long-term, because they're kind of
Yeah.
linked together. And then timeline for usage of funds. Does
I nominate Greg to
anyone-
contact them.
Should we talk about sustainability
I can do
at
that.
point? Is the second
Please.
You want me to?
I think the timeline would play into sustainability also,
Yeah.
because I mean, that's, once these funds it's gone, how are they going to support it?
Exactly.
I mean,
Right.
Assuming that those questions are satisfactorily answered, do they have a law? This doesn't require a law.
This is not
No.
required.
And what's the
They
maximum?
just-
75, isn't it?
75.
75 for this, yeah.
There was a portion that was for renovation, but then they asked, like, what, 45,000 was to, and I did have more questions on like how they would disperse that 45,000, like how would they decide if someone was eligible for assistance with paying for their therapy? What income guidelines they go by, I guess?
They should be able to provide that if it's the Owensboro organization
Yeah.
already that's been in
Exactly.
business, so they should be able to answer that question.
It's a sustainability comment, right, at that
Right.
point?
That and how they're going to determine, you know,
Eligibility
the
for their
eligible
service.
client that they're serving and, you know, I mean,
Cost.
what is the parameters?
Can't ever spell that word. Don't even try.
So we need a motion.
Yes,
Motion
we
to
do.
table
Motion to
for further
table it if somebody
information.
wants. Did you make that, Charlie?
Yes.
Second?
So,
Tom, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next one is building blocks. Number
33.
33.
I have an issue with this one on sustainability. They say it's a one-time cost, but if it has to do with technology, how's it gonna be updated?
yeah.
And help's only available for 2 years, what about beyond that?
Yep.
And how's it gonna be updated? I have a hard time throwing 75K out there and then it's not sustainable.
Yes. I think we looked at this one as in another group that I was in too, so I've got some past info on it as well. And the question that I've got too is how, I know that basically the system is a referral system is how it works. So basically you go in there, you answer questions, and it refers you to different locations. How are the referrals kept? For one, we went down this road in another organization, and the referral system kind of broke because no one updated the numbers,
Right.
the contact information of where they, so it kind of broke. So I'm back to that whole, not only just sustainability and where does the funds come, but also if it's a one-time fee, that means that there is no service to keep, you know, so are we going to have a person of our own do it, or what are we going to do here? So
I've got a question here. I looked at the Secretary of State and couldn't find a filing on them.
They
And-
just changed their name. They used to be called the 4C of Southern Indiana, and they just changed to doing business as building blocks.
So they used to be listed as a different, were they still nonprofit or? Because I was looking, I was starting to draw the conclusion they were a government entity of some type.
They are not for profit. I printed out shared information with all of you on. I am 100% not in favor of funding them whatsoever. Just based
Could I
on.
ask a question? Are they also in Owensboro?
No, they serve the southern 28 counties of Indiana, and their main job is being the child care resource and referral agency. So they are tasked with a lot of things that they don't do whatsoever.
I
currently
thought
with
this
the
name
funding
was
they
brought
get.
up on the news just recently. But I thought it was Owensboro. It could have been Evansville.
They're out of Evansville.
That
They're out of
they,
Evansville.
something to do about their building that they, I'm almost positive it was building blocks.
but you're saying they're contracted to do certain services now?
Yeah, they have a $2+ million contract with the state. It's on the second page of what I gave you, $2.6 million contract with the state for 4 years, and they are responsible for serving as the child care resource and referral for 28 counties. They are responsible for a lot of data collection. They're supposed to be the #1 go-to source for child care referrals for parents and questions. They're supposed to provide support to providers. They are supposed to work with providers to help them become licensed, which is the top email that you have right here that says this person wants to become licensed, and she's contacted them now 3 times and cannot get a phone call back. When they did answer the phone once, they told her to call 211.
And
So I'm
what
just
they're-
briefly looking at this here, and I'm assuming what they're proposing is something they're already required to do?
No.
No, they are proposing something that is not in their lane, I guess. Like, they're not
Okay.
doing what the state is already paying them to do. They're not doing it in Perry County whatsoever. So that is my biggest,
Do they have this somewhere else?
no, it's my understanding it's a new program that one of their employees has created, and if we don't do it, then she'll just take it to Vanderburgh County and they'll do it there.
Is that anything relevant to, as far as the negative impact from COVID? I don't.
Addressing the mental health issues brought on by that, correct?
Right.
I think it's kind of out of the
I would
scope.
make a motion that we do not fund this based on it is not within their mission. The services they're asking to provide do not fall within their mission.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussions? We have a motion and a second.
Does it hurt to have them come speak to us? We've already got a date set.
We haven't allowed anybody else.
We can reach out to them, but, and if they don't show up, then
We've got a set of
We haven't let
questions.
anybody else, have we? We haven't let anybody else do that.
Yeah, I would almost feel like,
I'm asking.
yeah, I would almost not do that because I don't want to, we have a lot of other organizations that didn't provide all the data we needed. We turned them down.
I'm only asking
Yeah.
because is there a set of questions that we need answered, or are we training them down because of what?
we
Is
don't
what I'm
feel
asking.
like they fit in the category.
I think that's
We
what
have
the
a
motion.
list of their mission, and they put their mission on there. They listed their mission.
Yes.
And their mission has nothing to do with what they're asking for money for. That's,
The mental
am I
health.
wrong?
No, I got you now,
Yeah,
Sherry.
I agree.
Is that
I didn't-
Karen? Yeah.
I got you now. I'm with you. So the motion is to not fund them from Sherry,
Yes.
seconded by Charlie?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'll second that motion.
You're too late, Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Building blocks is not funded.
Who's second?
Charlie.
Oh.
Sherry made it. Okay, now we're going to Stiles and Simon Enterprise 48. And Sherry, why don't you just handle this one and I'll keep my mouth shut.
Well, they're requesting 20K. What's the maximum for small business?
Or small business
We'll probably move it.
I'm not related to that. Hold on. I'm waiting for the internet.
That's why I didn't
I
complete
show a
this.
total income loss of 37K. They received PPP of 6K already. So the 20K would fall into the area. They're requesting to use it for hiring, which falls into the purview of the grant.
The total funding available for this, for small business, is $350,000. They range from $1,000 to $20,000 with exceptions, may depend on the illustrator.
And they asked for 20,000.
And they asked for 20.
Sit down.
I think it fits.
I make a motion to fund Stiles and Simon Enterprises.
I'll second.
The full amount.
Full amount. Sherry seconded.
Yes.
We'll call for a vote. Jerry?
Call for a vote, Sherry.
Sherry.
Oh, me?
Randy.
Yeah, I told you to
Okay.
handle that.
Oh,
Keep my mouth
I'm
shut.
sorry. I didn't know you meant the whole
Randy
thing.
handed you,
All
handed
those,
you the gavel.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, on the next one.
Abstain.
I'm
No, I
abstaining
didn't.
on
You
that.
didn't.
Randy.
Okay.
Me and Randy.
Motion. So, did you abstain as well?
No.
No. Okay.
502.
502. Motion carries.
And the last one, 49. It's Hahi Auction Services.
What was that, their loss?
Their 2019 was 130K, 2021 was 21K. If you look at profit, they lost way even more than that,
What was 2021? You said
21K.
21K.
I think it's a very
$1,000.
good fit.
They're asking for 20K.
I'll make a motion, we award them $20,000.
Second that.
discussions? Hearing no discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
2 abstentions? 20,000. And that is the end of that segment.
Never thought
What
we'd
did
be
you say
done
the total was?
at 7 o'clock.
We're not done. Now,
I never thought we'd be done with that at
With
7
that
o'clock.
part of it.
When we first started out, I didn't.
do what?
Number
Yep.
32, what was that fourth question, clientele? That's probably educational.
32 is in mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Third one.
Define the ministry and we need a timeline. What were you asking?
He had something about clientele for one of the questions.
Eligible client determination. How do they determine whether a
Yes.
client is eligible?
Yep. Sure. We're going to answer a question now that the crowd's so small.
Yeah, that's what, okay. When was the VFW? Can you tell me what number I was?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty please.
VFW 2939 was 28.
28?
28.
Okay, can you bring 28 up on the screen, pretty please?
Yeah.
Just a second. It's all syncing. Hold on.
Come on.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to try to get it because
PPP was 3K.
Sure.
That was the handwritten.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm on the spot.
Can you bring that up, Greg?
Yes, I got it up
I mean,
right
the
now.
handwritten,
Is
that would probably help him.
no documentation's handwritten, basically, is what the,
Can you
Yeah.
see it up there?
What?
Can't pull
Can you
it up.
project the,
it is.
No,
No,
I
he's
mean
talking about the
actual,
application.
like this.
see this
Oh,
right here?
good Lord, now you're asking me. You got the application that you can project? Just a moment. Just a moment.
There's your documentation.
Okay.
It's all handwritten.
I can,
Handwritten?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really hard to
And
see.
whenever,
Was it turned? Can I see it?
sure.
Original.
I don't know whether I can do it upside down here, but
I can project it if you want me to.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's got the 3 years.
That was turned into,
Yes.
wasn't on the computer, wasn't on,
Nope.
oh, just, you can stop right there, just stop right there.
There you go. You can see it. Yeah.
This is everything that I turned in and I asked her to put it on the computer. It was not. I apologize. CCW.
And see what you do there. I went through and put these numbers all together. And with the expenses and the losses,
Right.
the numbers didn't add up as far as, I think there was a loss and then there actually was an ending balance that was higher. And I was trying to figure out how
Okay.
this
I know
all
exactly what that,
worked out.
what that was doing is each year we had, took more money out of our savings and to try to keep,
Yeah, see, well, the savings apparently wasn't reflected in the handwritten note to determine that you had that money coming in.
that was the only thing that was turned into, y'all.
That's it?
I apologize for the VFW and,
No worries.
That's okay. I mean, other
no,
people,
I'm just gonna throw this out. Is it possible if I could get this thing wrote by Friday, would y'all accept it?
Then we'd have to let all
I-
49
I think we
applicants
need
do
to
that.
another round.
Round
Yeah.
two.
We're gonna do another
Round
round.
I
two.
think we need to
Yeah.
discuss as a
Yeah.
committee
Okay.
what our action would
we
be.
have substantial funds left. We
Yes.
set this all up. Most people are not professionals.
No, we're not.
Okay.
There's no-
Okay, so with that said, there's documentation, there's a lot of a lot of great things that could be funded. But we set up the rules that we were going to follow, and if we start wavering from those rules, then all of a sudden, we wavered for this and wavered for that. We'll have such a,
It'd be spaghetti.
it'll be a mess.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
our next step is, and we're going to do this here shortly, is to discuss again how we're going to handle this, what we're going to do going forward. This is just getting through this round of it, and then we're going to, it's like I told Tom, this is halftime.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go back and see what worked at the first round, what didn't, and how we can win the game.
I mean, I'm gonna try to say this without, there are other counties that did it a lot different
Right.
and just wrote big checks, and we're not doing that. And I think we're approaching this systematically, that it's fair.
And it's new to us.
Yes.
Yeah,
is
this is all.
I mean,
Yeah.
that, when I seen that, that's unacceptable.
Well,
Well-
and also,
All right.
because Tell City's getting ready for theirs, if you apply, you've learned a lesson that it needs to be
Yeah.
filled out.
Okay, the lady in the corner, if I get all the proper, when is the second chance that we get it?
We
We
have,
haven't
haven't even
determined
started
that
talking
yet.
about that
Yeah, it'd
yet.
be a good
We're going to
Get some
talk about,
dollars here?
Oh, hopefully, yeah.
Yes, I hope.
anticipate
That's
that.
that's what our goal is.
Yeah. So we're going to go back and see, we have to revisit this.
I apologize.
and
No,
Well, all right.
apologies needed.
Oh, that's unacceptable.
but
No problem.
everyone,
People, the veterans are probably gonna roll over the grave when they see the names when they do that. I
and
apologize.
everyone else that was ineligible will have the same fair chance.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
No
Thank you
problem.
for your time.
You gonna bring this up or not?
Yes, that's the next thing.
Oh, okay.
Now, and I don't know, has anybody,
What was the total?
well, it's probably pending, but you're probably in what, Greg? 200 and some thousand?
Continue on, and I'll tell you the exact number in
Okay.
a moment.
On to our third item is now, and it's kind of the 100% changing of our money to government funds. With that move, they've allowed it in the final rule. With that transition, Pam has a lot easier reporting. There, yeah, Teresa gets to help her. So we need to discuss that. We take away some of the requirements, but it falls into government use, which is kind of a broad term. Greg's talked to multiple different attorneys. David Aitchen's talked to the State Board of Accounts, and consensus has not been arrived as of yet. What our thoughts were to continue on as a committee, to make these decisions, to try to put this funding out for the people of Perry County fairly. And what we're asking that the commissioners support that, the council supports that. We have no authority to spend the money, they have to approve it anyway. But what we want to do is be relevant, not go through the process only to be decided that, we'll do with it whatever we want. That's the risk we do when we move it into the government fund.
Yeah.
So that's where this conversation starts.
To be honest, we have that risk now. The only guarantee we have now is that the commissioners, the three of us, have stated that we would follow the recommendation of this committee, with veto powers if there's something absolutely crazy or something, obviously. And the two commissioners, myself and Randy, are on there for the 4 years of this fund, right? So you've got a pretty good solid, but when it comes to council, we do have an election coming up for the majority of the council. So my opinion is, and the reason I'm going down this rabbit hole is that I'd like to see their resolution or their ordinance or whatever they're using to create this fund before I go too far down it, because I want to make sure that this committee stays relevant and still inside of that privy of how the money's used. So
If we do that and go that route, does that eliminate, like, many of these, maybe they weren't able to show a loss, but there were lots of examples where we knew that there was probably a loss, but because of different things we could, so does
the
that?
only thing that the lawyers and the State Board of Accounts agree on that I know of at this point, okay, that when we're talking to them, is that we can give to nonprofits, okay? So that's one of the things. Now, the question
About
is,
small business.
can we give to nonprofits with this money if we put it into the loss? So let's start there, okay? But let's just talk about what would be the guidelines if we could. And we would make those guidelines at that point. So we could for 2020, we could for 21, from the understandings that I've had from all 4 groups that I've talked to.
Okay.
Now, the big question is whether we can grant it all, and the other from this fund once we claim it as losses. And the second one is even bigger question is, can we do small businesses at all? That's the conversation that we're having back and forth between these groups to find out what the real answer is.
So we don't want to, even this group don't want to recommend one way or another till we have those answers.
I have a hard time, I have
That-
2 things that I have to have answered. Those questions there.
Uh-huh.
What are we allowed to do with the funds once they're there? And the second one is seeing that
We
resolution.
want to do something that we believe is the right thing to do, but
That's
end
right.
up tying the hands.
But the problem we have is the deadline
I
of
was gonna
April
say,
30th.
You guys are tying my hands because I have to report by April 30th.
She has to.
And I do not want to wait till the day before to
And,
report.
and the problem of it is, I'm not sure whether we'll have the answers by then, but it's either or. When she reports, it's either or.
I don't know. I understand that.
So
Because
that's,
actually, from what I've been told, you guys are still giving a recommendation.
that's all we do.
The commissioners are going to be the deciding body as to how it is actually reported.
But the
That's what I've been
commissioners,
told.
right, that, and I believe that 100%, but the commissioners have very active in forming this committee for the
Right.
reason of listening to the recommendations.
Right.
So
Right.
it's, I believe that, so we really need those, before the commissioners take action, we
Your
need that
meeting's on the
information.
19th.
Absolutely.
Right, because we don't want to tie our hands, thinking that we're freeing our hands up, we end up tying them.
Correct.
Right, so I'm gonna kind of make the motion that this group, makes a recommendation that we do that contingent on that it doesn't have ill effects on how the money, is that a,
Can I ask one question to Pam before we go too far? I know that the May 1st is the $10 million counted as losses, right? So that if we count losses
It's
under,
up to 10 million.
under the
Anything
10 million.
Anything under 10 million.
is that the last time that you can count losses?
Yes.
However we report it this time is how we go forward.
You have to calculate them and/or declare them 100%.
So regardless of whether we
Okay.
calculate or use the 10 million, May 1st is the deadline.
April 30th.
Well, May 1st, April
Yeah, well, April
30th.
30th is when I have to have
Yeah,
it.
what, okay.
Okay, so
yeah.
if we
And that's a
declare-
Saturday, so the
But-
29th. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but however we report it this time is how my understanding is that you go forward on the reporting.
You can't go
This
back
is
and
the one-
revisit
This
it.
is the one opening that they're giving us.
Even calculated.
Yes, because even though we calculated the first time, this is our only open window right now, because however we do it this time, then it's set in stone.
If it is turned over to that and we vote to do that, can we still award the money to the small businesses?
That's
we
the question.
chose
That's the
as-
question.
That is the
That is
question.
the question.
And there is some
Or
thought-
even the nonprofits. I haven't got
Yeah.
a solid answer even on nonprofits.
There is some thoughts to the fact that we may require an ordinance
Correct.
that allows this.
Correct.
Others say, no.
That's right.
So that's kind of where we are.
So there's three lanes. The first lane is, yeah, if you count it as losses, you can do anything you want with it besides these 5 or 6 things. Okay?
And they're
That's
spelled
the
out.
most open lane, right? And there are people out there, lawyers, that are saying that is the lane. Then there's a set of lawyers that say, well, no, you can't go to small businesses. And then the SBOA is saying you may not be able to grant at all. So that's unless you have a local ordinance. So then it's nonprofits only. So those are the 3 lanes that we got.
There's no infrastructure issue, right, regardless.
I guess, okay, so my question is that if it's a government loss, can the commissioners just, I mean, not even go through the grant process?
They can do
Can
capital
the-
projects if they
Can
want
the
to.
commissioners,
The county can just take the money.
well, no, I'm saying, can the commissioners say then, well, we want to give this much to here or this much to
No,
here?
really with the council appropriating at
Right.
that point.
The
Yeah.
council
Right.
has
But
to,
that's what I'm
We
saying.
would have
we're
to-
going through
go
the grant
by your
process,
The
is that way
commissioners would
that-
have to make it the plan, and then the plan would have to then go to the council for funding.
and the question becomes is whether
Well,
you
no,
can
wait,
take.
wait. No, if we do a loss, that is our plan. There is no other commissioner plan once we do the loss.
Right, no, I'm talking about if we don't do the law.
If you don't do the loss, then that is correct.
And then we're going to follow the final rule
We need answers.
as it
Yeah,
is.
we
them
need
before
answers.
our next commissioners meeting.
Yes, we need answers, and I
But-
highly
but-
suggest we
What
get
are
Baker
other
Tilly
language?
involved in this whole conversation, to tell you the truth.
Well, let's say we need that answer before the next commissioner meeting, because that is our drop dead date to either take this action
So-
or not.
Greg has found some counties that are doing it,
Yeah,
whether
And
it's
they're
right.
just not worried
whether it's
about
right
it.
or not,
Everybody's doing.
They're just doing it.
whether it's
So-
right or not, I haven't, but a couple of the lawyers have found some that have.
Doesn't Tom have a motion?
I made the motion that we recommend the 100% unless it creates the ability for us not to continue with how we're.
Let me reach out to a couple of counties that are my clients that have done this exact same thing. They claimed up to 10 million and they're regranting the subrecipients.
But have they talked to the SBOA?
I
Or are they doing that based off of what they
think so.
thought?
I would think so, but I will call and
Because there's
find
only
out.
one lady that I know that does SBOA and on the county level, right?
No, there's two. There's Ricky Hoffner and Lori Rogers.
I think
so
both
we've
of them
been
were
in contact
included.
with both.
Yep.
That's the two.
And they have-
That's every county.
What's that?
They took the, I thought they took the whole thing.
Vandenberg would be too big.
I highly suggest that Randy, myself, Charlie, the four that are on the government entities, we get sat down with the two lawyers, and we get sat down with AIM, and we get sat down with the SBOA maybe, and see if we can't work this out.
Right,
What
but
about
for the
Stephanie
open door law, we can't make decisions as commissioners here.
Yeah, you guys will have a.
It has to be the commissioners meeting.
Yeah, the two of you can, but what I'm saying though is, I'm not saying make a decision, but you're right, we can't be in that meeting unless it's open door. But one of us could go to that meeting, and I think that needs to be held so that there's a discussion amongst all those groups and something that's decided in that group that's in writing.
In writing. Exactly.
From the state.
Good luck with that.
Well, somewhere we have to have somebody.
Charlie's right.
Hang our
The
hat
state's
on.
not gonna
Well,
put them stuff.
they already put the answer in writing, and it's no,
But in any kind of writing.
right? So what I'm saying is, I want to know in writing I would like to have that discussion.
So Pam, have
To
you
see if
looked
it really is
at
a no.
the required documents for
She's in with-
filing
yeah,
this?
she's in with-
I mean, how,
No, because from what the instructions and stuff that we've seen as far as the 100% loss, it's pretty simple. It's just general questions, it's done. Now, if you go the other route, I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna have some help.
If
because it's gonna
we-
require a
You're
lot
gonna be
more than
chasing.
I'm probably gonna be.
if we do the calculations, I would say we take funding out of the ARP and pay somebody
Oh, yes.
for that.
Absolutely.
You know, and then it's, so that we get
The first time
supportable.
we had to do the calculation, I'm not gonna lie, Luke pretty well did it, as far as the reporting.
Yeah.
I did not do it. He pretty well did it, so I'm not gonna lie that, yes, that scares me to death to do it if you go the other route, because
Let's reach out
I
to
really
Luke.
don't know.
Well,
what
it doesn't, the calculation doesn't matter, because this is the one-time shot, whether we
Yeah,
have the
but
10
if you
million.
go the other route, we have to make sure that we've got all the, whatever documentations, we gotta have everything in line.
No, you can take up to $10 million, so it doesn't matter. If we say
Yeah,
that we're gonna
I
take
think-
1.2 for granting and the rest is loss, it's still under the $10 million. You don't have to do the calculation.
Right.
It doesn't have to be all or none on that. You can take up to $10 million. So,
So you're saying a portion of it governmental and a portion of it leave it in the fund?
that is
But
a
you don't-
possibility. But
You don't have to
then-
do the calculation in order to support that?
No, not,
The 1.2 you would, wouldn't you? Because I would thought you still have to do some kind of special documentations, because with the government laws, you really don't.
I
no,
thought it was either
hold
or.
on, hold on. The 1.2 million is for granting, and you'd have to follow final rule. What I'm saying is whatever's left over, you can take under the $10 million as loss. You don't have to do a calculation. Period. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not sure of that. I think you have to go either or. You take it
So
all
regardless, you're
or do the
saying-
It
calculation.
says, no, it says up to $10 million in losses.
Ask your
Up to.
attorney on that one.
Okay.
Because that way we can split it
Yeah,
as we choose, and we could actually leave some of the funding in this, under these rules, and take the other to government.
if I had my final rule thing here, I would,
But see,
I
if you-
pretty well, you got it?
Whether you're doing final rule or one's going to.
Please.
The government provisions.
I think I know where it's at.
She's still gonna have to have that
I
heavy
knew that happened.
Yeah,
on that portion of the money.
yeah, because
exactly.
if the portion that's not government laws, there's gonna be a lot heavier reporting, and that's,
Exactly.
that's the part that worries
I
me.
totally agree with that.
That's the part that worries me.
You're
I'm
gonna
gonna be
require-
honest with you.
You're
That
gonna require
worries me to
Lawyers?
death.
You're
Right,
gonna
one more
require
slip
lawyers
up
and
to
someone
be-
special about the reporting
Yeah,
side
because
too.
that part worries me.
There's counties that are hiring.
And then the next thing we have to think about is that we made some awards, you know, they have to be approved, but are we going to fall underneath these current ARP final rules, or are we going to move it to government funds and
See,
hand the
that's
money
part I've
out?
gotta find out, does it get
So-
moved to government funds, or does it still stay under the ARP?
Or do
money
we
and
leave a
spend it
portion
out
of
there?
it to fund these people we're going to award so that we don't have, you know, mixed money? And they say government funding cannot be distributed to for-profit businesses, and we just distributed it. So there may be a proportional breakdown that we'll have to do in that case.
Under this option, which is newly offered in the final rule, Treasury presumes that up to $10 million in revenue has been lost due to public health emergencies, and recipients are permitted to use that amount not to exceed the award amount to fund government services. The standard allowance provides an estimate of revenue loss that is based on an extensive analysis of average loss, blah, 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 simple. So basically where it says up to $10 million, presumes up to $10 million of revenue loss. So you can take part of it or not all of it.
I would get that clarified to make sure it's not an either or.
I'll ask State Board of Accounts.
Because, yeah, don't mark mine, or you'll not have your notes.
Then you better find somebody that can do the reporting.
So at this point, do we want to table that decision until we get more information?
And
I mean, it's,
Commissioners will have to,
You can report that a portion of your, if you can take the standard revenue loss and you can still state in the report that there's a certain amount that's going towards the COVID public health emergency.
absolutely.
we don't have time for
But,
them
you know,
to do,
in that
we gotta
case,
do
then
something to.
the rest of the allocation then goes to the standard loss. If you're doing something.
so you can break it out.
We gotta decide on
You know,
something
looking at this,
first.
this
not
thing
the
just
second
came out
and it's
April
died.
1st.
Then, okay, with that said, then are we going to be required to do two different reports?
Well, that doesn't state that.
Well, you could
But it's,
say,
if you're going, if you, yeah, it just said, here's an instance where a recipient with an allocation below 10 million chooses to attribute less than its full award to revenue loss. For example, it says, if you had a 9 million allocation, they may have obligated or expended funds for a project under another eligible use category before that standard allowance was announced by the Treasury. In that case, the recipient would report the project under the COVID-19 it was like they gave a vaccination project as an example.
Okay,
They said that vaccination project would be under the eligible use category for the COVID-19 vaccination eligible use category, and then choose to attribute the rest of its allocation to the revenue loss standard allowance.
okay,
Yeah, you
Okay.
can split it up however you
But-
want.
But
Okay.
then you're using a different expenditure code for that
it's different
project.
reporting depending
So
on how
then
you
it
fund.
falls under that expenditure.
I'm trying to listen to one
category
conversation at
for your
once.
report.
Whatever the part that you're not doing as a
Yes,
government loss.
yes, that's my
This just
understanding.
came out this last week.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought you could split it up.
okay, so the question is where we're at right now, and April 30th is a decision date. You guys have a meeting on
19th.
Tuesday the 19th. So where do we
I'm
go?
gonna reach out to a couple of people and see if I can.
Are we going to make a decision, or are we going to let
What
it?
you really want
what
to
do we-
find out is whether you can give to businesses.
Business and
Not-for-profits
nonprofit and
is not an
continue
issue,
on.
Because you get.
I would like to make a request
Okay.
for the second time.
Okay, Greg, make a request.
The request is that three of us, whether it's Tom and you two or me and you two, I don't care which, sit down with the SBOA and someone from AIM, which we can get a contact, I'm sure, for that, and Chris, and then if we need to, if Chris thinks we need to, Baker Tilly. But
Call,
you-
I was gonna say, call Stephanie Yeager with the County Commissioners Association.
You need to get a group that's going to be able to get this answered together on the phone together is what you need to do.
Do
You need a
care if I
conference
sit
call.
in on that to listen?
Absolutely. I'm not, yeah. I was not trying to keep you
No,
out.
I'm just want, so I can make sure that I'm hearing and
Absolutely.
knowing what we're doing.
Absolutely. But I think that.
But as far as this group, we need to do something tonight, right?
I will do something tonight if I get a yes to that request.
Tom has a motion on the floor.
Now, the question is, are we going to make this motion contingent upon a specific outcome?
Yes, that outcome requires this meeting, is what I'm saying. You're not going to get this answered unless you do that meeting. And so,
Right.
Can we try to have that meeting before the 21st, and we're going to come back?
Commissioners
We
are
need
having
for
on
the
the 19th.
19th.
It's gotta be done
That's
before
right.
the 19th.
And then
We need
Pam needs to get started one way or the other. And if we need to hire professionals,
You gotta get that done.
it has to get done too.
so
So
when can we
we're,
do that meeting this week?
well, I think it's dependent more. So if you're going to do it by telephone,
Mm-hmm.
the other players, as far as I'm concerned, I'm
Who's
got
gonna-
my phone with me.
Anytime.
Who wants to round them up?
Do you know the players?
I can try.
You line them up?
Go Stephanie Yeager.
Teresa knows her real well, but I can get her contact, yes.
Right.
So,
I mean, I don't know if she knows me real well, but I know Stephanie.
We need to get Lori Rogers on there or, what's it, Hoffer, what's his first name?
And Chris.
And Chris.
After 11 o'clock Thursday.
I
Okay.
think he passed away.
I can
Roy
make myself
Rogers.
available this week.
So who's the
Hoffer.
three here?
Not Roger.
okay, so
Who's
Greg,
the three here?
I can do any day but Thursday.
You can't do Thursday?
No.
Who's the three?
Friday's Good Friday.
I think what it'll be
And
is it'll be a
Sunday's
couple
Easter
council
Sunday.
people and a commissioner, whoever we can get when they're available. Is fine with me.
There you go.
Okay.
and if everybody can't make it, you go on.
You go on.
I mean, you just
Right.
go
Got
on.
it.
Yeah, her
We gotta
deal
get these
has to see
answers.
what commissioners available.
Yeah.
Okay. So Stephanie Yeager, Chris, you want me to call Lori Rogers?
Yeah.
Are you going to try to get anybody from Baker Tilly or not?
I think, could Chris get a hold of Baker Tilly for us?
Probably Jason on that one.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, Chris, Lori, Baker Tilly, and then three here.
Yeah,
Right.
3 from the entities and yourself. Okay? Now I'll second his motion.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussions?
God, no.
A 7. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.